Well, there it goes. The Daverhood. Good morning, everybody. Welcome live on this Saturday, November 14th, 2020, to the 772nd episode of Dave's Gone By. With me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, all of you watching at home, as well as a couple of special guests, including, well, really three old friends will be popping up on the program. What? Joyce says, introduce my new thing. Well, the new thing this week is not the yodeling pickle. Because we introduced this last week, I believe. Can you reload and see if I'm? I thought I said it showed me that I am live. So reload my little page and make sure that we're actually on there. Thought I was, but oh yeah, I'm there. I am definitely live. So, and welcome. We also have you guys, all of you folks watching at home, participating. Thank you. You all look amazing this morning. So you can play along with our today, yesterday quiz and just type in your comments and your messages all show long right here on this Facebook page. What else? But oh, the new thing, the exciting new thing is. Okay, I don't see you going for me. Just scroll down. Oh, wait. Slowly. Scroll down slowly. I don't know why it's not showing. Reload. Because I'm literally seeing it going live on the page. I don't know why that's not showing.
Okay, maybe it's a delay.
Maybe. Well, if you're not seeing this program, write to me. And if you're not within the sound of my voice, if you don't hear me right this second, please, unless that thing I was showing live before, but yeah, we're live on Facebook. I'm getting that message and we're recording the program. So I don't know what the issue is. See if we end up coming up at some point. Oh well. 772nd episode of the program. Here's what's going to be on it. This blackboard thingy. We got it. We splurged just a little bit. Splurged to get this just for fun, because I think a couple of years ago we used to have something like that. It was more magnetic, and you just throw letters on it, and you can have some fun with it. And it was really more for just having fun at home or leaving each other notes when we were out during the day. But this we purposely got to kind of have a nice sign in the background, letting you know about this program, that we are Dave's Gone By. That is the 772nd episode. We're calling this one Cudcession speech. That's a play on words, folks. It's a pun. Cudcession speech, because our guest in the Daverhood will be Bob Cudmore. But let me tell you about this. Unlike the magnetic ones that we used to use, and we also had a dry erase one, which was kind of neat. This one has these press-in numbers, and it comes in this enormous box. It literally looks like a gift box that you would give somebody from a cosmetic company. And, we actually have. Look at this. Look at this thing. I thought this could come from the Museum of Modern Art. The best gift. Have a nice day. Isn't this extraordinary? This was the packaging for that. There's something wrong in that. There's something that this should be like flowers and chocolates in here. This should be, a Bobby Brown deluxe gift set for the cosmetical woman in your life. But no, you open it up, and why it's so big is you need room for the blackboard, and also these letters. And I swear to God, there's probably 1,000 different letters and numbers in it. And well, idiot that I am, the way I open the box is I open it in the wrong direction. So each of the letters is in a different tiny little plastic segmented part of this box. It literally reminded me of Dad and me going fishing when I was young in his tackle box, where everything was kind of all arranged and there were these slats in between. But if you accidentally moved one of the slats in between, the bobbins or bobbers and the hooks and everything in one container would move into the next and and suddenly you spent half your day moving things back and forth into their proper place. And it's exactly the same thing with this. So you've got like 15 letter A's of all different types, like capital and capital bigger than that, and then a script A, and I think they have a Roman numeral. And it's just like, who needs this? Just give me a couple of letter A's and a little small A. It'll be fine. It's fine. And instead, got like 15 to 20 of each letter, maybe, or 10 to 15 maybe, and in these little boxes, like 100 visual things like this, some of which I have no idea what they are. They're like emojis that you put on here, and you can look at it. I still have no idea. And the amazing thing is there's punctuation too. Not really enough punctuation. And these micro plastic bits that might be periods, might be commas, might be just dots. They're literally smaller than my fingernail. What? And they're getting everywhere. You pick them up and they fall into another part of the container, and you move that from this container. And of course, with my big old stubby fingers, as I'm putting something in one part of the container, it's lifting up the plastic divider from where it's contained. So now all the stuff that's next to it is falling into that area. I pull that out. If I tell you, it took me an hour and a half just to arrange all these letters. And half of that was my stupidity, because I'm like, why isn't this arranged in an intelligent fashion? Why is it when you open the box, it isn't A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, like letter by letter by letter, thing of numbers, thing of signs and symbols. And I realized that the type of person that I am, I had it in front of me, rectangular box that it is, vertically, and they had arranged the letters horizontally. So if I just opened the box in a different direction, I would have seen A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, in proper order. Instead, I'm looking like, well, there's A and there's F and that's Q. I'm like, where was everything? So that was an interesting evening.
You're live on PA. You're not on Live Days Gone By. You're live on another page.
How is that possible?
I don't have you live.
Am I on? It says I'm on Dave. It says I'm on Dave.
I'm gonna go to you.
Yeah.
I didn't get anything that you're live.
I don't understand why, because literally I'm seeing me as Dave. I'm seeing my usual account.
No, but did you start the show? That's not posting.
So how is it that it's literally telling me I'm live on Facebook. And this is literally showing me, when I go to Safari, that I'm live on Facebook.
That is, scroll up a little bit. I want to see what it says live. I can't see it.
And it sees me on and it says I'm in Dave. I don't know. Check a couple of the other accounts. Maybe it's lying to me and I'm on the wrong Dave or a different Dave, but I don't believe I am.
I'm sorry, David. Your show's very good. I just want to invite people.
Oh, I know. No, I appreciate you're taking the time and inviting folks to watch this program, to hear me rant about putting letters on a board. And the annoyance of this thing goes even beyond that, because it's not magnetic, it's not dry erase. They've got these spindly, they're well made, but these spindly little letters, and because the board is brand new, it's still kind of rigid, and you've got to push it into the board, like you're getting indentations in your fingers. And it made me think of the poor characters, if you will, on Bob's Burgers.
Shit.
I'm sorry?
No, I thought it was working. It isn't.
Oh well. I don't know. Well, go to my page though, instead of watching it on yours, and it's not coming up.
This is what I get.
Even when you reload and reload?
Yes.
Wait, is that's me? Oh. I honestly don't know why it's doing that.
I don't know.
Am I no longer a friend? No, because that came up.
Yeah. I don't know. It's okay. Let's just go.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do my show, and you'll chime in for Greeley Crimes Old Times, and we'll do all the things we usually do. But the point is, it made me feel, if you will, for Bob and his wife and the kids of having to do that board. I think they have just a regular blackboard where they scroll the stuff. But what this really is for, what you see these in, is diners. Because that's why why do they have all these periods? You can barely write one full sentence on this thing. Why do I suddenly need like 50 dots and it also had like 20 or 30 different dollar signs. And it occurs to me, it's like, oh my God, what this really is for is when a diner is putting up the specials and it'll say burger, $6.99, cheeseburger, $8.99, and et cetera and so forth. And that's what it's really, it's dollars and dots. But I feel bad for anybody working in a diner using this thing instead of a dry erase, because you've got to take a half hour, find each letter and number that you need, get the dollar signs out, and then start like pushing and arranging and doing, and it's like the hurrieder we go, the behinder we get. But it does look really nice. This is probably the nicest sign that we've had on the program to date, and it is telling us that it's number 772. Cudcession speech is the name of the show, because as I mentioned, our great old friend Bob Cudmore is going to be our special guest on the show. Now, Bob is a what is Bob?
Wasn't he a flamingo dancer?
No, he's never been a flamingo dancer. He's never. I can't say that. He's actually a rather striking man. And wait till you hear his radio. This man was on radio for many, many years, and you know exactly why when you hear him. Because I've got a good radio presence, an okay radio voice. I have a sibilant S. I'm, sometimes I cough on the air. I've got a decent voice, but you're not going to hear me as an announcer on NBC. This guy could announce anything, anywhere. When you hear his voice, it is the pure, beautiful announcer voice. And he was also the morning man on WVTL radio up in, I think, Rochester and environs. And he did that for a bunch of years. Had a wonderful time. And that's how I met him. I met him at a radio conference that used to go to pre-pandemic times that would gather people in the industry, in TV and radio and publishing. We would all get together as media, and then folks would pitch to be on our shows with the books they've written, with the albums they've recorded, with the ideas they had. It's kind of, 90-second meet and greet or fast dating between people who have stuff they want to get on the air with and people who have outlets for them to share what they've done. So Bob was one of the media people, and we just fell in right away. We just had a great rapport. He's a really, really great guy. But then he retired. He had a morning show on radio with thousands of listeners, right? And I think they were pushing maybe 10 or 20,000 watts on the station. So a sizable audience in the best slot that you can get. I mean, if you're an early riser anyway, a morning drive. And he interviewed local politicians and an occasional celebrity and a lot of authors, because he's into that, and historians. And he gave it up in still essentially the prime of his life. He's an older man, but not like because of illness or anything. He's just like, it's too early in the morning. I don't want to drive anymore. I've done it enough. Enough is enough. Right? And yet he didn't give it up, because he's been podcasting since then for about 5 or 6 years now. He has more than 300 or he's coming up on about 350 episodes of his podcast called The Historians, which is all about people who are experts and authors in history about New York State, and especially upstate New York, as well as politicians who will come on, local authors, people that he finds interesting. He's done, I'm so proud that I've got 770 something episodes of Dave's Gone By. This guy has done already about 350 in 5 years. It took me 18 years to get to this point. I'm doing it week after week, once a week. So it's called The Historians at bobcudmore.com. But I won't tell you more about that. We'll have him on the show to talk about that. I don't think he's been on this program in a bunch of years now, so at least 5 or 6 years since Bob Cudmore's been on the show. And he was always very kind to me in the sense of when I was promoting the Tony specials that we were doing on Dave, we still do on Dave's Gone By, the Broadway related special that we would do at the end of every season.
David, can you post your thing on my timeline and I can share it?
Can I post what on your timeline?
My thing.
I'm wondering, can I?
I need to get listeners. I feel brain dead. Absent from the show.
But I'm not sure how I can do, I can share, maybe I can share this to your timeline.
Yeah, please do.
Let's see if I can do that.
I feel like I'm not doing my job.
Share to a page. Hold on. Give me a moment, folks. It's not a page that I'm allowed to share to.
Post on friend's timeline.
All right, hold on. Just give me a mo.
You could talk
I can do it. Share on a friend's timeline.
me.
And here we go. This may work. I'm hoping this will work.
Tell the people I need my
I'm going to call it Dave's Gone By Live, and I'm going to send it. I hope I did it. We'll find out. Maybe I posted twice on my own page. Not sure. But anyway, so Bob Cudmore going to be on the program. Also, I mentioned a couple of other old friends. Oh, that was the thing. Bob would let me on.
It says the content isn't available.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm hoping people are watching. I have no idea
This
if.
happens when usually because the owners share with a small group of people or change who can see it.
I don't know. Am I on private?
I think you might look. I mean, because I look. Can you see?
Let me see if maybe I'm not public. Give me a moment.
I'm sorry, David. I need my
I know. Oh, for some insane reason,
Yeah.
I don't know how this got locked. I have no idea how this got locked.
I don't know.
Now look. Now check.
Okay. Gotta go back.
Every week it's something different, ladies and gentlemen. Now give it a minute or two of reload. I'm very sorry, folks. We've been recording the program,
Yay!
but it's been at some point.
Start again. See, I'm glad
I'm not going to start again.
Start again. Show them the board.
You know what? Let me play the opening music, and we'll have a semi-official restart of Dave's Gone By.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. There goes the Daverhood. And there was much rejoicing.
Didn't your meds kick in yet?
Yeah, David Lefkowitz here. He's a Long Island Arts guy. He's got his own radio show.
I want you all to really enjoy a wonderful program done by a fine artist.
A glorious thing of unparalleled beauty.
Dave's Gone By. Dave is one of my very favorite broadcasters, so keep on listening to Mr. Dave.
So here's the great thing that we started. My wife is constantly recommending, let's put up a check sheet. Let's put up a checklist of all the things that have to be done, because it's a little million moving parts to even do a stupid little show like this. Is to make sure you've got the sign up, to make sure you know what the visual is, have to record the show, have to then send the show live on Facebook, got to make sure the I wipe down the lens on the computer so it's not blurry. All these, and make sure I'm recording this, make sure I'm recording the actual show. Literally like easy things, quick thing, but you have to remember each and every one of them. Change the name that comes up when people see me, so they're seeing Dave's Gone By instead of my name. But when I have a guest on, do gallery. Little listy things, but don't even occur to me that at some point I must have changed the view on the Facebook page. I don't know how it happened, to only me instead of to everyone. So the first 15 minutes of the show, which by the way are recorded, which we got, which you can go watch anytime once we post the show in the archives. But I apologize. People were looking for Dave's Gone. We weren't on, right? I was on. I could see on Safari, or one of the browsers that we use for this, and I could see, oh, wait, we're here. I'm live. I'm watching myself. I can see the show is going on, but I don't realize that I'm the only one who can see the show.
Because you never trust me. Like, you always think I'm wrong. And then I'm like, David, you're not on the Facebook.
Yeah, but I couldn't, for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why, because I'm seeing myself
And then when
on
you shared
Facebook.
it said either this is your small group or it's been deleted. And I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah. So, and in the meantime, I'm in the middle of doing the show, so I'm not going to just stop and troubleshoot and say, okay, we're stopping the show and then and killing the feed, which means then I have to go back like I did last week, and after the show's over, attached to parts of the show in iMovie to get those up on the archive, which takes a million years and 4 zillion kilobytes. So I'm like, there's only so much I can troubleshoot while I'm trying to be an entertainer here. But Joyce caught it. I'm sorry to everybody who's been trying to watch the show. What? For the past 15 minutes, but we are here and we're live, and we hope that you are tuning in and telling folks, yes, we're on. And we're on for everybody, not just for me, which essentially is this show anyway.
Cudmore, right?
Cudmore. So I will reiterate very quickly what we've got on the program. We've got Bob Cudmore, old friend.
He's Cudmore.
He's not Cudless. He's Cudmore, and he's Cudley. Don't even.
That's
The joke, I know, right? The jokes get better. No, they don't. But as I said, or as you didn't hear me say, he was a broadcaster, a morning man on WVTL radio in like Rochester, New York for many, many years. Now he does a podcast called The Historians that has been around for about 5 or 6 years now. He's got a couple of hundred of these podcasts, all about local politics and history and stuff.
Look at how beautiful your board looks.
Yeah.
Board is
Joyce is so proud of the board. I'm going to spin this just a little this way to get those books out of the way. But yeah, so Bob Cudmore was also very kind to let me go on his program, his morning show, and promote my weekly show, but especially if it had me on once or twice a year when the Tony nominations would come out and the Tony Awards. We were doing our Tony show just before the Tonys, because his listeners were at that moment kind of interested in Broadway, and he knew I was an expert in the field, so he had me on for like 10, 15 minutes to talk about it, and that was always great, and I was always grateful for that. So, returning the favor a bit, having him on my show today, he'll be here in a bit.
There's a rumor that he's going to sing the Star Spangled Banner.
Why would he?
No, isn't it?
No, he's not. No, I mean, not that he's not a patriotic guy, but what he'll do is he'll talk a little bit about his career in radio and what he's gonna, the best stories from his Historians podcast and how he's doing during the pandemic and all of that.
No Hamilton.
No, we will try not to bring up Hamilton. We'll try. But he will also hang with us to play our Today, Yesterday trivia quiz. We do this every week, and it started out as just me asking questions to all of you and giving the answers, and then we started bringing contestants in, and the whole thing's taken off. That's right. Yeah.
Leslie and Dave
Sheward, yeah.
are very competitive, and no other guest has tamed them.
Mm.
So we've had 2 guests go on against them, and they were just stumpified.
Oh yeah.
They
Well,
stumpified the guests. Yeah.
well, first of all,
Oh my God, Joyce joined.
Joyce who? Oh,
We
from
never had a Joyce
our neighbor.
join.
Well, so, who are some of the names?
No,
Read me
Joyce, our neighbor's dead.
What?
Yes, our neighbor Joyce back in Colorado is dead. She's been dead a year or 2.
She's also listening. There's some fraudulent podcast thing
we
going
never
on.
had a Joyce listen.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Well,
That's
welcome,
really cool.
Joyce. My wife is named Joyce. I'm Dave Lefkowitz, by the way, and you're watching Dave's Gone
Can
By.
you hand me a marker so I can note the guests? You got guests
With
joining at the
pickle,
end.
potato. Yeah, we not only did we debut this new blackboard here today, but we've got yodeling pickle as well. Potato, who is more of a veteran of the program. As a matter of fact, did we bring Potato to the very first episode that I did when we did it on Long Island?
I don't think he was allowed in the station.
Oh, that's right.
They didn't allow potatoes back then. It was an anti-potato law.
Yeah, there were some issues with the FCC.
What?
Yeah. But anyway.
Remember the 400-pound cat they had in the station? Probably would have consumed the potato.
Oh, that would have been terrible. I'm just thinking back on the old days when we started the show back in October of 2002, and here we are. We're now a video show, in a manner of speaking, I'm still here. We're still doing it. And we've got Bob Cudmore and our friends David Sheward and Leslie Hoban Blake, who will be playing the Today-Yesterday Trivia Quiz. And all that is a bunch of questions of things that happen in history on November 14th, because today is November 14th, 2020. So yeah, November 14th will be the date. The questions will all have things to do in terms of history. So it should be interesting. Bob Cudmore, a podcaster with a show called The Historians. Let's see how he does against our quite competitive players, Leslie Hoban Blake and David Sheward, in our Today-Yesterday quiz. We'll also be going inside Broadway for some mostly negative Broadway news. There's no good news coming out of Broadway this week. And what else? We will have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. This is where we will go to Rangeley, Colorado. Rangeley, never heard, right? Rangeley, Colorado, but I've written a poem about it, and I will share it with you, as well as we might have time for Dave's Big Dictionary. This is a segment where Joyce will open a book of the Webster's New World Dictionary, not of the English language, by the way, of the American language. Is what they called it back in 1966. She will randomly put her finger down somewhere in the book on a page. And when she does that, her finger will land on a word, and I will have to think of something to talk about that word. Why don't we do it now? And there's no, just like in Today-Yesterday quiz, it's honor system, there's no cheating. Joyce is gonna pick up the dictionary as we speak. Yeah. Well, let me, so she's opened the page.
Oh my God, equity.
Equity! Wow, so many ways to go with that. Here's the page that she opened. Her finger landed on the word equity. And let's see if my eyes will adjust to the page here. It means, of course, fairness and equitable. The value of property beyond the total amount owed on it. In law, it's a system of rules and doctrines, as in the U.S., supplementing common and statute law, and superseding such law when it proves inadequate for just settlement. Saturday morning, I can't handle that. But it's about equality. Oh, there we go. Equality, impartiality, and justice.
We're living in inequity.
Inequity, there we go. Equality, justice, and
There's so many
for all.
names this week.
Oh, well, yeah, let's hear some names. Joyce is writing down, by the way, all the folks who are tuning in. Again, I apologize that we actually started perfectly on time. And I went through this whole checklist. Let me show you the checklist. Check Wi-Fi.
Checklist, I'm going to make sure public.
Yeah, make sure it's your Facebook feed is the correct Facebook feed, and you're broadcasting to the world, not just to yourself. So that would be a good thing to do. Anyway. I think I've told you everything that's going to be on the pro. Oh, and I didn't mention, just, there are some parts of the show that are for everybody, like the Today-Yesterday Trivia Quiz, Greeley Crimes Old Times, and when I banter in the first part of the program, things like that, Inside Broadway, everybody can listen. And then there's other stuff for the more specialized Davidians who watch this program, the Davidians, if you want. The folks who are the more hardcore people and are ready for the rougher stuff. And those include our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, which is usually really vile, intentionally so, because it's a limerick. And we have our My Sick Mind segment. And this is where, we actually watched Jerry Seinfeld talk about this week, because Joyce and I, when we're having dinner, we'll watch comedians in cars getting coffee. And if you've never seen the show, on Netflix, it's just Jerry Seinfeld in a car with either stand-up comedian or someone who does comedy movies or comedy TV. And they drive around in this really special souped-up fancy car, and they go to a place and eat and have coffee. And they talk, and the show is like 17 minutes long, so it goes by in a flash. So even when the comedians aren't that funny, it goes by so quick you don't mind. Yeah. Well, yeah, they literally, this is like how journalism works. The process of taping a 17-minute episode of Comedians in Cars takes about 6 hours. And they whittle that down, and really the comedian physically gets maybe 7 minutes of talking in the whole thing. Because Seinfeld's there, and then they're dealing with the waiter, they're driving, there's tons of shots intercutting the making of coffee, the serving of their food, they're going along the street, there's montages. You figure you get a funny person sitting in a car next to you, right? And you've got your own show and you're Jerry Seinfeld. You think you'd give the funny person a bit longer to talk, but it's really slice and dice, but it's very watchable. It's very fun. And he's done a bunch of seasons of it, I think. But he was talking very, where was I going with this? He was bringing up this idea of pushing the envelope. I'm not sure that's where I wanted to go with this.
No, I don't know where you're going.
He had mentioned, well, I was talking about the Colorado, oh yeah, I do know where I'm going with this. Of the comedian's mind is working all the time. We know this. So someone's always looking for the slanted view of reality, the joke, the ridiculous, absurd angle on everything that happens. That's what you do. Even though I'm not per se a stand-up comedian, even though I'm not famous or anything, that's the way my mind goes. Every single moment of the day. It's like my day would be incredibly boring and pointless if my mind didn't go from the most minute thing of like making breakfast cereal in the morning to staring at a computer screen all day at work and figuring out, absolutely insane logic and illogic of how a school calendar is made, to, coming home and having a marriage and planning the show. It's just, the brain is always like, what's funny about this? What's wrong with this? What's weird about this? And I'm not complaining. It's a beautiful thing. It's one of the few things that keeps me from putting my toe on a trigger like Kurt Cobain, right? It's just seeing the world in that way. And one of the things that I do, and I don't know if every comedian does this, and certainly your average normal person does not do this.
Oh my God.
But the immediate response, what?
Yeah, 2 people named Ken joined right after each other.
Well, hello,
I
Ken.
have a person named Ken.
And Ken means yes in Hebrew, so Ken. Yeah, it does. Ken, it does.
How do you say turkey?
Don't hold that thought. Hold that thought while I get this thought out. So this is what happens. You're crazy person. Yeah.
Remember we watched that show and the bird's name was Tukey?
No.
Tukey, and another one, it was done by that comedian. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Hold that thought too.
Okay.
So.
Okay, comedian's life, crazy mind.
Yeah, crazy mind. So it was saying that with a comedian, internally, there's no such thing as too soon. There's no such thing that stops a funny person's mind, unless they are directly, perhaps, really directly personally affected by a terrible tragedy. And then, of course, their mind goes into shock like everybody else's would. But from any sort of distance, a funny person or a strange person looks at something, however horrible, and goes, what's the joke? Where's the joke? Like, it doesn't even have to be that funny a joke, but where's the funny angle to get through this? And so I have to apologize for this every time I do this, but we have a My Sick Mind segment, because that's what I call it. It's about my sick mind. I love sick humor. I love dark humor, as well as I love all kinds of humor, but especially the sick, dark stuff.
I like sick stuff.
So we have a segment where I'm going to make a couple of jokes about Alex Trebek. And I know immediately, like, half the Facebook thing is going to be like, no, it's like making fun of Mr. Rogers. He just died, and maybe his second cousin is listening and watching. No, his second cousin not listening to this show. But, and I should feel bad. I should feel somehow wrong that my head, my brain, within 30 seconds of going, oh, Alex Trebek died. Or, I loved him on Jeopardy. Jeopardy is my favorite game show, and I've been watching it for years. And if I'm downstairs, like making dinner or doing something in the kitchen, and it's on, I will immediately get sucked in until the commercial and watch them run down the categories and try to beat the contestants in my own mind. And Trebek was great. He was fabulous, And I miss him, and I'll miss whoever they will get someone new on Jeopardy. And just like with Bob Barker and, who's the guy who took over for Bob Barker on Price is Right? Drew Carey. Drew Carey. It's just like, I mean, Drew Carey stepped in. Everybody was like, Drew Carey? What? And now, for years, he's been doing it. It's fine. It's still The Price is Right. And I'm sorry, that will happen with Jeopardy also. It happened after Art Fleming. I remember Art Fleming. He was great. But we all know it's, no, Jeopardy. It sounds like Trebek. It's Trebek. We're all prisoners of Trebekistan, as the book title went. So, you know, it's at I mean, shock is like, oh, we expected it, but we didn't expect it. He said it was getting better. Sad, sad, sad. But the brain goes, what? I need jokes. I need jokes. Think of things involving Jeopardy, the categories, all of this, and he's dead. He's dead. What's sick and funny about that? And that's how the Dave mind works. And I feel better about it now, having watched Jerry Seinfeld talk to another comedian, and I don't know who it was. I don't recall whether it was Colin Quinn or one of the others that we were watching, but just admitting and saying, you can't go up on stage the night Alex Trebek dies or 24, 48 hours after and make Alex Trebek jokes, because it's too soon. You'll lose the audience. They'll get mad. They'll, no matter how much they like you or all your other stuff. If you put it out there, it's what Gilbert Gottfried faced when he made that joke at the roast of Hugh Hefner. Of all people, it was roasting Hugh Hefner in like October of 2001, right? Just 2-3 weeks after September 11th. And he made that joke about taking a plane, wanting to get to the show on time, to get to the roast on time. And he asked the airline if they could be nice to him and land the plane in the middle of the Brooklyn Bridge or something like that. And everybody just went in the audience, and you're just this chill. And he saved himself. He saved the night by then launching into the aristocrats joke, and it's become part of comic legend and comic lore that he doubled down. Right? He didn't just sort of slink off the stage. He panicked a little, and rather than just go into his regular bit, he said, I'm going to tell the most sick, disgusting, endless, reprehensible joke that I possibly can. And the audience suddenly went, well, and he just killed. And it became part of his comic legend, right? And so, but he understood. The too soon doesn't happen to a comedian. There were comedians who were sitting there watching the World Trade Center in flames. And the moment that they could just step away from that for a second.
Oh my God, I remember Gilbert Gottfried singing a rap song.
Yeah, and Gilbert's career, it rebounded, even though he lost the Aflac duck for making a joke about Japan. If you have, there's a song by Cardi B. This is every story I tell suddenly has like 12 components to it. So it was in the news that some politician or some company wanted, I think it was a local politician somewhere, they had a program that they wanted to institute and get people to accept and use, where the initials were WAP. The acronym for it was WAP, WAP. And so he found somewhere on the interwebs that there was a song by Cardi B called WAP. However, and he used it, and he said in order, like the underscoring of the commercial that they did, or something like that, or it's just like Cardi B's WAP. You just remember these initials and so forth, not realizing that, probably realizing that WAP stood for something else in the Cardi B song, but not understanding that her song is the filthiest, most disgusting thing you've ever, I mean, it's not disgusting. She's talking about her vagina in a way that's saying, come and get it, boys. Here it is. Here's my PUSS. I'm not on. FCC's not watching this. Her pussy. And the whole song is about her diving in, get in there, put a ring on it, put a ring around it, do everything you can.
You're thinking of Beyonce.
No. Well, no, Beyonce's put a ring on it.
Yes.
But her thing is like, if you want it, come and get it. Is that her milkshakes bring all, or sushi brings all the boys to the yard, if you know what I'm saying? What is she saying then?
She's saying that you have to know how to please a woman.
Yeah, you gotta go down there. You know, to quote Mountain Rain Wrights, I wish I was a lesbian. That song of like what you have to do to Cardi B to make her happy in that very, very special way, right? And the whole song, and it's not even. It's not even. Here's the intro to her song. Lick my pussy, 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 lick my pussy. And it's literally the whole song. It's not like, if we remember 40 years ago, Sheena Easton's Sugar Walls, which was a Prince song, all about sort of the same thing, but it was kind of like, you know, let's allude to this. It's dirty, but it's not that dirty. Our friend in the Daverhood, Jill Sobule, sang a song about the man in the boat, the little man in the boat, and called her album Pink Pearl. Right? So, but it's not the same as Cardi B. It's like talking about her wet ass pussy. And the entire song's about that. Why do I bring this up? A, because it was in the news of this poor guy. And if you listen to Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, you heard about this as well, of this poor politician or company owner recommending this song without realizing that WAP in her parlance was not the WAP he was talking about, you know, wainscoting access program. No, it wasn't that. And then did a little digging and found there is on YouTube, you can see Gilbert Gottfried, as he did with 6 Shades of Grey, or a bunch of years, 50 Shades of Grey, all those years ago, reading, shouting, essentially, the lyrics to Cardi B's WAP. It's quite wonderful. It doesn't have the shock value of his hilarious reading of 50 Shades, because that was so unexpected. Now you get it. Now it's going to be Gilbert Gottfried saying, lick that pussy! Go down there! Oh, make it cream! You know, we know he's doing it. It's still funny, but it doesn't have that moment of 50 Shades of Grey when you're just like, yeah. So let's see. So there's that. That was part of my week, but you need to see that. If you haven't seen Gilbert, I would see Gilbert Gottfried read anything. I'd like to see Gilbert Gottfried read War and Peace, you know, or the Brothers Karamazov. It's like, or Three Musketeers. D'Artagnan stood with his sword. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Gilbert. Beautiful, beautiful, wonderful Gilbert. And it was Gilbert, you know, who came up with the greatest line that has ever been on this program. It made me laugh the hardest I ever had at anything on this show in the 18 years that I've been on the program. Because you laugh at guests, you know, they make a joke and you're half really laughing and half laughing to encourage them. And sometimes I get off a really good one and I do have a good laugh, or I make myself laugh, or else I wouldn't do this show. But he came up with a line, and you can hear this in our conversation, about the Holocaust, of course, because you put 2 Jews in a room, within 30 seconds they're talking about the Holocaust. And he said, apropos of nothing, I don't know if this is a line he had ready or that he's used before, or if it just popped into his head. But he said, and for some people this is still too soon, but he said that if the Holocaust had lasted just a little bit longer, Jews would have found some way to make money off it. He put it better than that, or to make a profit. He just put it so beautifully, and he threw it in out of nowhere, just in conversation. And I landed, it was all I could do to continue with the rest of the interview. But the beauty of that is it's still shocking 70 years after 80 years after the Holocaust. And it's still, if you brought that to the Wiesenthal Center, they'd be like, shame, and they do, you know, and is it the ACLU who is just shocked at everybody now? An APAC, where you cannot talk about anything about anybody, and cancel culture comes in and takes over. So some guy, it was this week, some guy tweeted something or put up a Facebook or post, someone who had a notable personage, either formerly in government or a performer, and made some joke, some reference to life under the Trump administration. And said, well, do we put on our striped uniforms and yellow stars now? And oh my God, the ACLU, the Jewish community and the action groups got so up in arms. What an anti-Semitic thing to say. Guy wasn't being anti-Semitic. Guy was just making an allusion, however, really, really, really ridiculously stretched, to life under Trump, or what life would be with 4 more years of Trump, what he would have enacted had he won the election, right, to a Holocaust thing. And he's pulling in, it's in bad taste, but to say, oh, how terrible anti-Semitic, you're mentioning the Holocaust in a joke. It's a fucking joke. Yeah, go with it, run with it, take it. It's the man's mind. He's not even a comedian, which may be why he couldn't pull it off. But this is how the mind works. It makes the joke. It's sitting there with a tweet and something that he finds amusing. And he's not just saying, I hate Jews. And he's not saying, Israel's terrible and the ovens were a good thing. He's saying, oh, wow, we just made it for 4 years of Donald Trump, right? And it felt like, I'm going to make a Holocaust thing. I'm going to make an allusion or an analogy to the death camps. Send. And oh my goodness, enough with the political correctness and the cancel culture. And that's the one thing I dread more than anything else really with the Biden and Harris coming in, even though I voted for them. I'm worried about the market. I'm worried about when they really realize that Trump is gone, will the stock market and stuff go like, and then will we have the recession that somehow has not happened in the past 4 or 5 years, where it's coming. It has to be. And we've been on an upswing slowly with bumps, acknowledged for what's been going on in terms of the pandemic. But, we've been on this upswing without a real sustaining down for so long. It was supposed to happen under Trump, even whether he was good or bad. It was supposed to happen, but the business world believed in him so much that it didn't happen, and the stock market just went, as he would say, on rocket fuel. I'm worried about that, but I'm more just worried about the real level of cancel culture that might go on now that we've got, Biden and Harris in the White House, of this sense of you can't say anything about anything. You can't really speak your piece without being shouted down by the left. So I am left, and I don't want to be shouted down by other lefty people. I know, I'm left, you're farther left. There's a difference. But anyway, among the people who are watching the show, Joyce and Charles and Roy, David Warhol, of course, Lori and Alan, Donna, Nancy, Iris, Bobby, Ken, there's the double Kens, Alan, Michael, Nancy with an S, and Mark. So welcome to all of you. You're watching the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream, which is all to say that I will not be shouted down on this program, even though I'm not some raving right-wing AM radio host. I'm just me, and I'm just making the jokes, whether they hit Trump, whether they hit Biden, whether they hit Holocaust victims, whether they hit Alex Trebek. It's what I do. It's who I am. And I'm Dave Lefkowitz. This is the 772nd edition of Dave's Gone By. We're calling it Cudcession Speech for our guest in the Daverhood, Bob Cudmore, who will be joining us. He will be coming about 40 minutes or so. And then we've got our Today Yesterday quiz featuring Leslie Hoban Blake and David Sheward playing against Bob Cudmore in our trivia game. We'll go inside Broadway. We'll have Dave's Big Dictionary when we're talking about the word equity. I will have to speak extemporaneously about equity for 5 minutes or so. Just, off the top of my mind, anything, that's what Dave's Big Dictionary is. Just pick a word, and I've just got to go sailing along with it. We'll be doing that. We'll have My Sick Mind about Alex Trebek and our Colorado Limerick of the Damned for Rangeley Colorado, Rangeley, Colorado. Before we get to Greeley Crimes Old Times, though, I've got one more thing to talk about, and this is kind of interesting. I still get messages and things from like LinkedIn and other services about jobs, even though I've got a job and I've had this new job for about 3 months now. Can't say I'm happy, can't say I'm miserable. I'm just there, right? And so I still get these listings, and then I still poke around a little bit, say, hey, we need a radio host on a 50,000 watt station, someone who is really, really going to make a lot of Holocaust jokes. Hasn't shown up yet, but there was
you?
What? Sorry. But one listing, because I'm down there for things like editing and publishing and radio, of course, and theater. But there was someone who, in the list of places that were looking for help with publishing and editors-in-chief and editors-at-large and something, the AVS needs a head of publishing.
What's AVS?
The AVS needs a head of their publishing. AVS is the American Vacuum Society.
What do they do? Make vacuum?
Well, that's when I saw that, I'm like, I just see the listing on the American Vacuum Society needs a head of publishing.
Who doesn't?
All I can think of is, why? Why? What are you making? What is there to write about? What books are you making?
They're making vacuum cleaner manuals, of course.
Yeah, I'm like, are you doing like graphic novels about Vacuum Man? I mean,
Vacuum Man. The vacuum is, you know what vacuum literature is?
What?
It sucks.
Oh, I was going to make that. That's the thing. I said I was going to come up with their motto at least. Like, if they needed someone for promotion, the American Vacuum Society should be "We suck." Yeah.
I love it.
It turns out, I couldn't resist. I'm like, what the hell is the American Vacuum Society? And it's a much more like scientific-oriented, physics-oriented institute.
You mean like vacuum of space vacuum?
Yeah, like the whole idea of a vacuum rather than some vacuum cleaner company or some society who is devoting themselves to the love of vacuums. And it's like, yes, we need more fan fiction. Okay, fine. Oh, the housewife stepped to the middle of the living room. She flipped the switch, but nothing happened. Her eyes trailed towards the cord running across the carpet. Aha, the cat had unplugged it. Chapter 2. I said, what do you need a head of publishing for? But I get it now. It's more of a scientific field inquiry place. I did not apply for head of publishing for the American Vacuum Society, but you might want to give it some thought. Anyway, are we ready for some Greeley Crimes and some old times?
I'm trying to do my job.
She's trying to do her job on the show. Oh, we've got more people tuning in, and welcome to you all.
Now I can see. Before I was freaky. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but I know you were mad at me that I corrected you, but if not, you would have been dancing with yourself.
I do that too. But thank you very much. It's time for Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Yeah, let's vamp that to oblivion. Da 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 da! Feeling out indeed we. Yes, Greeley Crimes and Old Times. We do it pretty much every week here in the Daverhood, thanks to the fine folks at the Greeley Tribune newspaper, because this is a segment that we do based on a column, or really two columns, that appear every single week in this very, very old newspaper. It's old enough that it's been around for more than 100 years. So one of the columns is called 100 Years Ago, where Mike Peters goes into...
Yeah, but he was such a nice man.
Oh, Mike Peters is great. He goes into the archive of the newspaper to the editions that were printed back in 1920.
Can trees kill?
This is a different, I held up a different headline on this one. There's an actual issue from like 2 years ago already. But, and in that column, he gathers the most weird, funny, nostalgic items that were in the paper back in October, November of 1920 and reprints them and shares them with modern readers and 100 years ago. There's also a column in there called Cop Log, wherein the weirdest phone calls that come into the police dispatch at Weld County in northern Colorado. So it isn't just the really scary bad ones like, you know, my uncle's having a heart attack or a real robbery is being committed. Well, send an ambulance, send a 911. These are more like there's a man standing next to a horse nearby in the field. Can you send some police officers to go look at that? Those things, they're public record. They're called into the police department.
Squirrel giving someone the evil eye.
Yes, raccoons, man. Raccoons showing up and doing things. Hobos on the loose. All of this will literally be actual phone calls that have come into the police department. And then they're gathered by, I think, Trevor Reed is doing it now. No, Trevor, I think, is still the fella doing it. And he gathers the funniest ones together and puts them in the paper once a week. We mix them up in a segment that we call Greeley Crimes Old Times, and that's what we do. So we're going to begin with a crime, a modern crime for modern times. A man who said he was on acid called police. Uh-oh, where's this police call? And asked them to check on his 3 kids. He thought he had heard them in the house, even though they're with their mother. Amazingly enough, police found the man had used meth 3 days earlier. No sign of the kids. So, yeah, meth is different from acid, right?
Meth is one where your teeth fall out and you look like a skeleton.
Yeah, so apparently meth is not the same as acid. That is an easy mistake to make when you're on meth. You can give police the wrong information of the drugs that you're taking. But at least his kids were okay. They weren't even out and about.
David, I don't think the statement his kids are okay, that's not factual. I don't think his children will ever be okay.
Well, let's see about this person. Police also responded to C Street, letter C Street in Greeley, where an out-of-town caller reported her mom had, guess what, hon?
What?
A squirrel inside her apartment.
Why would they make a note that it's somebody from out of town? Like, you can't report a squirrel if you're in town?
Well,
Was
the
the
girl,
squirrel out of town?
oh, I don't know.
Out of town squirrel?
Could have been, and he had a tale to tell. No, but so I guess the mom lives in Greeley. Maybe her daughter or something called the police to come and see that she had a squirrel in her apartment. Now, the woman on the phone kept changing her story of how the squirrel got in and then said it left.
Okay.
9 hours later, the caller, who I guess was not that far out of town, showed police where the squirrel was hiding. And, and people, they hate the police. They want to defund the police. They say the police are always beating people up. They're terrible. But the police went to the apartment. Then they came back 9 hours later, and they got the squirrel to run out of the apartment.
Why are the police doing that?
I don't know. I think it's great that they are. I don't know why they...
Waste of it. You know what they did?
What?
They went in and shot it. Right here. Here's your squirrel, ma'am.
I think the guy on the 15th shot, after destroying a couple of Tiffany lamps, a mirror.
Yes, queen, yes.
We have an advertisement. This is an advertisement from 100 years ago. Does your iron kitchen range sweat too much?
What? Wait, hold on, I gotta play the music.
Does your iron kitchen range sweat too much, producing rust throughout the range? Sweat rust is a disease that eats up and rusts out range bodies from the inside. If your stove had sweat rust,
I would rename it. I wouldn't call it sweat rust.
we'd never eat on that thing again.
Why would we call it that? It's a horrible
Sweat rust. It eats out your range from the inside. However, our copper coating inside the range stops this rust. Greeley Hardware and Implement Company on 8th Avenue and 7th Street. We're opposite the Rex Theater. So if you're having sweat rust, folks, I don't even, the closest thing I can even imagine is if I wear my underpants more than 2 days in a row and I throw that into the laundry and I look down there, that's sweat rust right there. There's something going on in my underpants and maybe the armpits and my undershirts. Definitely modern version of sweat rust. By the way, we are rusting along right here on Dave's Gone By. It's just after 10 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. That's my wonderful wife, Joyce. This is Potato. We're going to be joined soon on this November 14th, 2020 episode of the show by Bob Cudmore, as well as our friends David Sheward and Leslie Hoban Blake, playing the Today, Yesterday quiz game. We'll also have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. We'll go inside Broadway, Dave's Big Dictionary with the word equity, and My Sick Mind for Alex Trebek. All of that and more on this episode of the show. Right now, we're in the middle of Greeley Crimes and Old Times. It's time for some crime, ladies and gentlemen. A woman on 9th Avenue called to report people with, quote, secret tape recorders, recording her thoughts, controlling them, and stealing them.
I think she's the wife of the guy with meth.
I think so too. I think, she should be very careful because, among other things, I think tinfoil has been a little hard to get in supermarkets during the pandemic.
You gotta put tinfoil in your pants.
And pants and a hat, right?
Yeah,
Over the windows.
you gotta do that.
Gotta keep the people from
Put
stealing
tinfoil in
your
pants.
thoughts. Yeah. Secret. Wouldn't they use secret like MP3s now?
No, I don't think so. I think they like tinfoil in pants. It's very classic.
And it is. Oh, speaking of something that is an absolute classic and is absolutely tremendously important and major, ladies and gentlemen, not only do we have an important story and an alert story,
Don't
but
alert, everyone likes it.
it's a Lupton alert.
Lupton. Alert.
That's a hard, but it's worth it because it's a Lupton alert. Now, a Lupton alert is really nothing more than letting you know that our next story has to do with Fort Lupton. What?
It's nothing more.
It's nothing more than Fort Lupton. And the reason that
Fort Lupton.
and it's important to me is I just love saying,
Have you been there?
yeah, we drove through Fort Lupton. We must have. It's in Weld. It's not that far from where we were living. We had to get through Fort Lupton at least once, maybe either on our way to Denver or our way east. But just say it with me. Just say Lupton. Say Lupton. Lupton. Is it Lupton? This is a Lupton alert. Health officials warn of rabid skunk in Fort Lupton area. Weld County health officials are encouraging anyone who touched or handled a skunk Friday morning in the Aristocrat Ranchettes neighborhood.
David,
Yes.
don't they, first of all, Aristocrat Ranchettes is not in Fort Lupton. And second of all, like, why would you handle a squirrel? What's a rabbit?
Yeah, this is the thing. It's like, why would you, whether the squirrel is rabid or not?
Is it a squirrel or a raccoon?
I'm sorry, it's not a squirrel, it's a skunk.
So why would, isn't skunk another name for pot?
It can be.
Don't they say like skunk?
Because it smells like skunk weed. It smells like when a skunk spray a little bit. But no, they're warning anyone who basically the helmet head kids is like, who else would see a skunk and go, I want to touch that? They're saying, if you touched it or handled a skunk on Friday morning in the Aristocrat Ranchettes neighborhood, please contact the health department.
Can you give me the number?
1-800-55-STINK, I think it is. The skunk did test positive for rabies. A concerned resident noticed the skunk early Friday morning on a residential property near Fort Lupton. Colorado Parks and Wildlife picked up the skunk, which was tested at Colorado State University. You know, say what you will about UNC. We don't have to do that. Say what you will about our money troubles, about financial issues with the university, about COVID, about,
What, skunk testing?
yeah, the one thing is CSU does the skunk testing.
Really?
Yeah, apparently they did. Yeah.
We just had to test that.
So anyone who came into direct contact with the skunk,
We call him Skunky.
skunky, or who has a pet that might have contacted the skunk, is urged to contact the health
How do you know
department.
if oh,
What was it?
how do you know if your pet's contacted a skunk?
That's a good, well, I don't know.
Do
If
you
you,
check its Instagram?
that's right. Follow its Twitter feed. You know, if your dog is wandering around with foam in its mouth, it probably hasn't eaten your shaving cream. It's probably something else.
That's
Not good at all. Let me tell you about Greeley City Council from 100 years ago. They discussed paying a policewoman as a censor for local movies. See, this ties in with just what I was talking about cancel culture. There has been a censor in Greeley for a while, but she hasn't been paid. So she's the chairperson of the Greeley Censor Community. Greeley Censor Committee. Really? Can you imagine a town having a censor committee? This is, you know, the more things change, the more things change. Anyway, here's a letter, again from a long, long time ago. On Tuesday evening, between my home and the Teachers College, I lost a black and green plush robe. If found, please return J.M.B. Petrikin. That was his signature. Yeah. Now let's parse this. Let's unpack this. On Tuesday evening, between my home and the Teachers College, I lost a black and green plush robe. Is there a reason that a teacher, presumably a professor,
Yes, queen,
would be in the middle of, you know, going in between teaching at the university and a house?
There are many
in-
times I was on the way to teaching and I lost my plush robe.
And somehow the robe came off. What was the teacher wearing under the robe?
That's not right.
Where were they when they last were wearing the robe? How did it suddenly?
Why wouldn't they just say like a coat? The fact that they call it a robe is a little suspect.
Exactly.
Was his
I mean, a
name-
coat,
was his
sure.
name Vance Fulkerson?
That's right. Sincerely, Jay Epstein. Well, there you go. Now, hey, let's go outside of Greeley for a little bit. In Greeley Crimes Old Times, even though nearly all of the stories have to do with northern Colorado, we sometimes pull out some stories from elsewhere in the world. Well, let's go all the way to Augusta, Maine. A Maine restaurant is preparing to close for the next 2 months because they just know the whole COVID thing is happening all over again. So with every order of a family meal, the Red Barn restaurant is giving away what? I'm going to throw this to you, my dear. So the Red Barn restaurant in Maine.
Are they E. coli?
No, we hope they're not giving away E. coli. But you're sort of on the right track.
A plate?
No.
Feces?
No, but you are really on the right track.
Oh God, I don't know. I don't want to know.
No, it's great. It's great. With every order, when the family orders this kind of their version of a Happy Meal, they're giving them, with the meal,
Yeah,
a roll of toilet paper.
that's nice.
The Red Barn's Facebook page shows a picture of the owner, Laura Benedict, holding 2 big boxes of toilet paper.
That's nice.
Laura's going to give COVID the 1-2 punch, the post reads. We're putting a roll of toilet paper in with every family meal while supplies last.
That's not good.
But you're right. It's a lovely thing. She realizes that the restaurant should not be open during the 3rd wave of this thing, and she'd rather keep her customers safe while having a little fun during these anxious times. And then, of course, everybody who posted in a message under the story was saying this, like, now this is what Taco Bell should have been doing since they opened. Just send a carton of toilet paper along with everything from Chipotle and Taco Bell. Just send it along. You might as well. And then we're also going to do another far away place in Greeley Crimes Old Times this week. We're going to go to Worcester, England, because we just can't Worcester like we used to. Worcester, England, where a 91-year-old woman in England was stranded for 2 days on her bedroom floor after taking a spill. How did she survive, dear?
She ate her pee-pee?
No, not as bad. Not as bad as what went through your head.
Oh, she found like candy or something. Oh, she ate dog food.
No.
Cat
A
food?
little worse. No, a little worse than that.
She cried?
I'm sure she did. Although she had to maintain her hydration, which is the most important thing.
She did pee-pees?
She probably did. No, she survived by eating soil from her potted plant. According to a report, doctors said Rosemary Frank, I know you like that name, Rosemary Frank was about 6 hours from death when she was rescued October 13th by a volunteer driver who checked on her when she missed her regular ride to her hair salon. After falling at her home, the retired physiotherapist, not much of a physiotherapist if in 2 days you're going to be dying because you can't get to your kitchen, said that she remembered waking up in a pile of dirt after eating soil from her Madagascar dragon tree. She was severely dehydrated and had fractured her wrist in 3 places. Quote, "They found soil in my stomach, so I must have eaten some in desperation to try and stay alive," she said. "The plant was a gift from my son, so I'm obviously very grateful for it." Of course, if he had gifted her one of those chocolate and fruit baskets, she'd feel a bit more grateful. But the thing is, I was like, didn't I watch that show about people who went without eating for 30 days?
Yeah, you told me that's not good. You gotta eat.
Yeah, but can't you literally go a week before you truly and completely starve and dehydrate and something? She must have been like 90 pounds going in.
Yeah, there's something fishy with that story.
91-year-old eating soil. You know what? Somebody should go digging and get the real dirt on her. I'm worried this story's just a plant. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I'm Roger Mudd. Damn, Roger. That is cute. Thank you. Let's do one more Greeley Crime Old Time, and then let's go inside Broadway. So let's do one more piece. Check this out. 100 years ago, a huge prehistoric lizard was found in Weld County. Archaeologists put together the bones, which show the lizard to be 50 feet long from head to tail. And typical male, its brain was 1 inch in diameter. So yes, with skunks and lizard and dehydrated 91-year-olds, oh my, we close this edition of Greeley Crimes Old Times.
Mr. Horace Greeley was no fool. I'm sure that you'll agree with me that Greeley was no fool.
But he is getting news that Mr. Greeley was no fool.
Yippee-yi, 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 yi-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi.
Yes, that morning yodel reminds us that we have so much more to do on this November 14th, 2020 edition of Dave's Gone By. With me, Dave Lefkowitz, my wonderful wife, Joyce. We've got so much stuff coming up, but, I'm a theater guy, even though I haven't been in the theater in about 9 months, but, playwright, actor, director, theater journalist, theater critic for many, many years. I love talking about the theater and sharing that with you. So very briefly today, on the 772nd edition of Dave's Gone By, let's go inside Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. Brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. Inside Broadway we go. We do it every week here in the neighborhood. I wish I had happy news. And there are times even these weeks when I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to do the Broadway segment. There's not that much happening and so forth. But there's kind of some big sad news on Broadway this week. So it is worth doing the segment. First of all, nothing new. Nothing new. Broadway stopped on March 12th. And the very, very earliest anything's going to happen with Broadway is starting in June of 2021. So we're still more than half a year away from even the inklings of previews beginning. People are truly thinking that we won't see any theater for about 11 more months, at least in the big Broadway houses. I mentioned last week that some of the small, under 99 seat theaters are suing New York to say, hey, look, you know, with our business model, we can have 30 people in a 99 seat theater and seat them safely, and we can do shows. Please let us do that, Governor Cuomo. And meanwhile, he's in the middle of dealing with a new wave of a pandemic. We'll see how that all goes on. But for now, not much. There's the occasional pop-up thing or some outdoor thing or stuff in a storefront where the theater's there and people are out on the street watching. Fine, fantastic. Theater artists will always be proactive.
What time is Bob coming on?
10:30. But until we have our guest Bob Cudmore, who was kind enough in years past to let me on his radio show to talk about theater, we have some news. So there's no Broadway reopening news or anything like that. But someone who made it to Broadway twice and to off Broadway a bunch of times passed away this past week. We've got a big farewell to playwright Israel Horovitz, who he died at the age.
Harvard Yard.
That's right. He was just part of our trivia quiz last week. He was 81 years old. He died on November 9th. He was, not only was he a playwright, he founded Gloucester Stage in Massachusetts back in 1979, specifically to foster new plays and new playwrights. Really, if you knew him in New York, it wasn't for the fact that he had a show called Morning, Noon, and Night on in like the late 70s, early 80s, or even that he had a minor hit, kind of a hit, with Park Your Car in Harvard Yard, featuring Jason Robards and Judith Ivey back in 1991. I saw it was all right, but his real thing was that for about 30 years, if you went down to the 13th Street Theater in the Village, you could see his play, his short, like hour-long play called Line, all about people, kind of an absurdist experimental comedy of people who want to keep their place online, and you never find out what the line is for. But boy, oh boy, they're going to stay on that line. And it was just one of those things where they ran it once or twice a week, year after year after year. It didn't stop until like 2018. And he also wrote the play Indian Wants the Bronx, which is one of the very, very, very first places that you saw Al Pacino before he made it huge. And also he appeared in that play with John Cazale, the late John Cazale of The Deer Hunter. So both of those shows became longtime mainstays of 13th Street Rep. He also wrote plays like The Primary English Class, The Widow's Blind Date. He did a series of about life for Jewish people in Gloucester called Today I Am a Fountain Pen. He is, who knew this, the most produced American playwright in France. More than Beckett, well, Beckett wasn't American, but more than anybody else. He's the one that they do the most there. He's a two-time Obie winner, Drama Desk winner. He wrote the screenplay, speaking of Al Pacino, to the movie comedy Author, which was inspired by his own life as a kind of successful playwright. So all of these things, all this stuff about Israel Horovitz, we'd be talking a whole lot more about this. We would have seen a lot more obits about him, except for the fact that in 1993, Israel Horovitz was accused of harassment and even of sexual assault. But at the Gloucester Stage that he founded. But the theater board kind of looked the other way. They couldn't verify, they couldn't this, they couldn't that. Years later, during the whole Me Too era, the Times the New York Times picked up the story, and the women went on record against what he apparently did. He was forced to resign from the board, never quite acknowledged any wrongdoing. He gave that semi-apology of like, if some people took things the wrong way, I apologize for that, but what they're saying is not necessarily true, and so forth. Meanwhile, and this is awful, his own son, Beastie Boy Adam Horovitz, believed the women over his dad. So his denials, his whatever, he was inclined to, and I think he had a permanent rift with his father. So yeah, both sides of a man who did a great service to the American theater and a disservice, certainly, to many of the women that he came into contact with. What do? You say farewell and thanks for the plays, and hope you come, if there's reincarnation, hope you come back as a somewhat better person next time. Anyway, farewell to Israel Horovitz, leaving this planet, leaving the theater, leaving the Daverhood. I want to say a farewell to actor Jeffrey Palmer. He passed away at the age of 93 on November 5th after a short illness. If I say that name, most of you won't have any idea. But I guarantee, if you watch any public television or any English shows on Netflix from 20, 30, 40 years back, you know Jeffrey Palmer. He was in Butterflies, The Rise and Fall of Reginald Perrin. If you know Fawlty Towers, and you remember the episode where there's a diner who just wants his kippers, while all this madness is going on with Basil, that was Jeffrey Palmer. And if you know the long-running sitcom As Time Goes By, where he acted with Judi Dench, that was Jeffrey Palmer. You can picture him now. I mean, if you can't, just Google Geoffrey, Jeffrey Palmer. He won. It's funny, it's interesting that Israel Horovitz won an Obie Award, which is the Village Voices Off Broadway award. He, Jeffrey Palmer, took home an OBE, kind of different, an Order of the British Empire, for his service to drama, even though Palmer was never on Broadway. He acted at the Royal Court Theatre, including, and this is only early in his career, he did a couple of shows at the Royal Court on the West End in London. And he was in a play, and he found the experience so incredibly boring that he never went back to theater again. He did training for TV, did some movies, but Jeffrey Palmer still did a great service to, the British Broadcasting Service, as well as to theater in England, and certainly to television and movies. Farewell to Jeffrey Palmer. I want to remind you that if you want to read theater reviews from all over the world, go to totaltheater.com. Yes, we've been keeping it up, and we've been reviewing some Zoom and virtual theater shows on there. Total Theater, THEATER or RE, totaltheater.com. And remember that Performing Arts Insider has been the Bible of Broadway since 1944. Performing Arts Insider, this is where people in the theater industry turn to find out everything that's going on, off, and off Broadway. To find out how to subscribe, go to performingartsinsider.com. Have a couple more things to do on our Inside Broadway segment on this November 14th edition of Dave's Gone By. First thing is, just nothing to do with theater, but stand-up comedy is a little bit theatrical. Farewell to someone I should have thought about getting on the show years ago. Norm Crosby passed away. Like Jeffrey Palmer, he was also 93. He died on November 7th. Master of the malaprop. He started basically, after doing a bunch of stand-up, he made it onto Johnny Carson in the 1960s. You saw him on all the Dean Martin celebrity roasts. He hosted a cool show called The Comedy Shop, which mixed old veteran and new comedians. And it's basically what they still do today on HBO. He was the host of that, and he made a pretty good host. You can see some of those episodes on YouTube. He also very often co-hosted the Jerry Lewis MDA Telethon. So a big farewell to the late Norm Crosby. We lost a comedian. It's so sad when this happens, when they've been out of the public eye for so long and retired so long. And they say, oh my God, he was still alive? Oh, man. Mort Saul is still alive, and he was doing shows out in California up until about a year and a half ago before the pandemic. So it's just, grab these people while you can. Anyway, we're going to end, speaking of sad news involving Broadway, and there is no Broadway at the moment. But stuff is going on behind the scenes, indoors. Unfortunately, on November 12th, just 2 days ago, at the Winter Garden Theater on Broadway, where the revival of The Music Man will be happening late next year, fingers crossed, there was a workman doing some work on a scaffold about 9 in the morning. He fell. Do you have the bomb noise? There we go. And he fell hard, and he died. The Sheward organization, which owns the Broadway, the theater, which is located on Broadway and 50th Street, confirmed the incident, and an investigation is being conducted by both the New York Police Department and OSHA. So yeah, this happened this week. Even though there's nothing happening in theater, it's the investigation is being conducted. It was a 54-year-old worker. He was cleaning the set of Beetlejuice. I mean, of all the shows, for this to happen, Beetlejuice, of course, the spooky musical comedy based on the movie, which has not been cleared out, because that was the whole thing about Beetlejuice. It turned into a surprise hit, and they were making like $1 million a week, but they had to close because the theater was booked for The Music Man. Well, The Music Man came in and, was going to start, and then stopped and stopped and stopped, and Music Man won't hit until like next November, December. But Beetlejuice, the set stuff is still there because I haven't been able to bring people into the theater. But the poor guy fell off a scaffold, was rushed to St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital, but it was too late. But anyway, what a way! Imagine you get to die in a theater, but you don't die on stage. You don't die in front of a crowd. You just fall off a damn scaffold. That is 2020 in a nutshell.
But maybe that's so weird. Don't you think it's, why wasn't somebody, like, usually in a union there's somebody guarding him, like you have
Yeah.
There's usually somebody protecting somebody else, right? It's not one person working alone.
Yeah, I know. But if you're not harnessed, if you're not whatever, you lean a little too far. If I just polish this candlestick in the top level, and the Winter Garden is the biggest damn theater on board. It's like 14,000 seats in there. Yeah, it's a monster. Can you just text Leslie and tell her it's the same link as last week?
Okay.
Thank you. Well, anyway, it's about 10:29 in.
Can I send this one? Is this the one here?
Yes, it's the same one.
Copy it, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, where are we with this? Yes, we have our guest. Our guest is waiting patiently in the waiting room, my friends. Our guest,
I just sent it.
who knows what it is to be on the air, who knows what it is to do radio, and now knows what it is to do podcasting, because he has a podcast of his own called The Historians. This is going to be great because he's been on the show numerous times. It's been a few years, but one of the great things is he was always doing it when we were radio or an audio podcast. This is the first time we're going to get to see Bob Cudmore. Hold on, let me get the gallery view going. I see him. I hope I see him. Bob, turn down your audio.
Hello.
Hello, Bob Cudmore.
How you doing?
I am great. You are looking good, although why are you holding a Torah? What is that thing in front of you?
This is, thank you. That's a compliment coming from the rabbi.
No, it's Dave.
This is actually
Yeah.
a Yeti. Let me put it down in camera. It's a kind of microphone. This is how the magic of the podcast is done.
Oh.
I work with my longtime colleague, Dave Green, who has the recording studio at his house.
Right.
And at some point, he gave me, or loaned me, on a long-term basis, the Yeti. And you know what I didn't do today, is I do on podcast day. You can't see it, but I usually put this foam behind the computer, because Dave doesn't like all the noises and whatever that come about. How does it sound? Does it sound okay?
Well, you sound great. I mean, Bob, you sound like Bob Cudmore, which is a great thing to sound like. You've got that fantastic morning man voice, that announcer voice. Is Dave Green still on VTL as well, or is he also retired? And
Neither one of us is on WVTL. We just do the podcast, and he does other podcasts too for other people. He records them. We used to record them at his house, but since the pandemic, we don't do it at his house.
So you're able to log in and do the thing and then send him the file
Right.
and all of that.
Well, I don't know. This gets to be real exciting, but we use what Dave has found to be the best thing for us to use is a service, not Skype, but Clean Feed, it's called. I think it's British or some way, and
Right.
he has to pay for it. I'm not sure how much, but he has to pay for it. But the audio is usually pretty good.
Clean Feed. All right. Yeah. Do you go live? Is the podcast live, or do you
No,
pre-record it?
no. We have a long wait time. We're we do a half-hour show a week, and we're about a month ahead.
Mm.
So anything I record now will run like into the new year. We're practically up to the end of the year with the shows that we've already produced.
Because I was already kind of shocked. You know, I'm very proud that this is our 772nd episode of Dave's Gone By.
Right.
Very nice number. But I've been doing this for 18 years. You've only been doing your podcast for about 6 years, and you're at like 350. You know.
Yeah, we wondered about that. Don't you do this every week?
We did. Well, there were, you know, sometimes we went on vacation. There was a year where I had to skip a couple of months. So yeah, technically we should be well up over 800, but still, I'm making 6 years. What were you on, 340?
No. Well, I've been doing podcasts for 5 years. Well, yeah. 6 years. I don't know. It's every week. That's how it came.
Well, tell people about the Historians. What exactly is it?
Well, it's it's a history podcast. I brought some of the episodes so I wouldn't forget about them. We do sometimes national topics. We do a lot of local upstate New York history. But for example, I had a show, and of course, once you do a podcast, it probably is true. Dave's Gone By. They're there forever. You know, they're on my website, bobcudmore.com. You can find, for example, episode 331.
Oh, my favorite.
Woman who's been doing research at a cemetery, a graveyard. And that's oh, my goodness. But you know, in fact, it's become a sub theme of the Historians because after I talked to her, this Presbyterian graveyard, this Catholic man who's a retired Army officer, Dave Cummings, he's working on a Catholic cemetery up in the Adirondacks, and they just get fascinated with it. They clean the stones, they research the people who are buried there, and so on and so forth. But we do national topics like I think the most interesting one we did in the past month or so was an interview with Jeanette Conant. She even has a certain link to show business. She is the wife of, now I can't think of his name, one of the 60 Minutes guys on TV. And she is a well-known author and writes history stories. And she wrote a book called The Great Secret, which told the story of how an inadvertent discharge of poison gas on an American ship led to the development of chemotherapy. It's basically
really,
but
wow.
Right, and it was a secret and was classified. And the good doctor that discovered this from New Jersey, I can't think of his name right now, but he was hassled by people all the way up to Winston Churchill because they didn't want him to say anything about the fact that America had poison gas in the hold of the ship. The idea the point was they were holding the poison gas so in case Hitler were to use it, they'd be able to retaliate with their own poison gas. But the Nazis attacked the ship and sunk the ship, and the poison gas escaped. So,
wow.
But that led to, and they probably would have founded it anyway, but it led to the founding of Sloan Kettering in New York City and the development of chemotherapy, because what they found was the poison gas destroyed white blood cells, which may not sound like a good thing, but the trouble is, for example, with some cancers, is that in leukemia, the white blood cells are going crazy. They keep multiplying. So it was necessary to kind of tamp down their productivity, if you will.
So how would you, if you were to describe the historians, because I thought it was just about upstate New York history. That's why I really, you were talking about, well, this town was founded by so and so.
Yeah, we do
I
that.
thought that's what, but it's so much more. You really go much further afield.
Yeah, we have different, like the one I have coming up soon is with a retired Associated Press reporter who has done a lot of interviews with, not the man because he's deceased, but he's done research on a guy named Jack Wilpers, who was from up here. He was from Saratoga Springs, but he was the American soldier who captured Tojo, the Japanese prime minister, who
Whoa.
really was, of the Axis leaders, the only one that was, in a sense, brought to justice, because Hitler presumably killed himself. Mussolini was killed by the partisans, and Tojo, who had been the prime minister of Japan, although he no longer was that at the end of the war because they ousted him when the war went badly, but he was captured by this soldier and a small party of American American GIs, and it was regular. And the capture would have been something you could make a theater piece out of, because it really was, I hate to say it, almost hilarious. I mean, the Americans, somebody said to General MacArthur, I mean, the war had just ended, and somebody said to MacArthur, well, what about Tojo? I don't know. He's still alive. Why don't we arrest him? So apparently MacArthur gave the order to somebody who gave the order to some to go get Tojo. So this guy Wilpers was part of kind of a CIA unit, spy unit, if you will. And they said, well, where are we going to find Tojo? And they said, it's not hard. Just follow the reporters. The reporters are there already. There were like about 6 reporters, with like something out of the front page, that are camped in front of Tojo's house.
If only bin Laden had been that easy,
So anyway, so then that whole scene ended in this remarkable picture showing this man, Jack Wilpers, who has his own gun, pointing it at Tojo, and Tojo had just shot himself, and his gun is on the ground, and the American soldier is picking up the gun while he's guarding Tojo. So that, well, anyway, and that was a picture that kind of went around the world as.
Let me ask you, Bob. Because you seem to know, you know when you get a guest on, there's working and writing out questions and figuring out what to ask them. But you seem to have researched seriously all the guests that you talk to and read their books and all that. Where's the time? If you're doing this once a week, how much?
That's the thing. I mean, that's why I'm doing it once a week. There's hardly any of the time for anything else. I mean, we do. I'm doing another related task, which is I do a weekly column on local history for the Daily Gazette, and I've been doing that for almost 20 years.
Wow.
And then I do the podcast, and it does take a fair amount of research. I mean, I can't complain, but what else? The points are, I still can do it, and what else am I going to be doing?
Well, speaking of, how's the pandemic going for you? You're in upstate, where are you, near Rochester, in that area?
No, I'm in the Albany area.
Oh, Albany, you're Albany.
I live in Glenville, New York, and it, as everywhere, it's getting worse here. I mean, New York was really terrible, but that was mainly down where you come from, in the city, and Queens, and I don't know about if Brooklyn was as bad as Queens, but maybe it
Parts
was.
of Brooklyn, yeah.
Yeah, but so anyway, so that was kind of not cleared up, but they tamped that down, and for the longest time, we had the lowest rates in the state. I mean, Governor Cuomo was banning all the people from different states, or not banning them, but they had all quarantine. But now we're starting to tick upwards in what the Cuomo calls hot spots. And unfortunately, Albany is one of them now. They've been getting quite a few cases, not a lot of fatalities yet. So, we're sort of like Cuomo.
I asked about you. I mean, how are you doing?
Oh, nothing's happened to me.
Thank God. And Audrey, your beloved Audrey?
Yes, beloved Audrey. We stay in the house. We go out from time to time. But it's interesting how, I don't know how it was with you, but like our offspring are really taking this seriously. Like my daughter and son-in-law, they live about 10, 15 miles from me. I've only seen them once in person since the pandemic. We Zoom every week and we communicate frequently, but they do everything. They order the food and have it brought to the house. They both had been working from their home anyway, in their separate jobs, except my son-in-law has a business in another upstate city, so they go to that business. But so anyway, they don't get out and about much. And one of, say, Audrey's son and daughter-in-law, they live in Massachusetts. We just saw them, saw the daughter-in-law and a granddaughter on her way back from college at Syracuse U to Medfield, Mass. They stopped to see Grandma Audrey and here in Glenville, but we just saw them out on the porch. They didn't want to come in, because they're afraid of infecting the old folks.
Well, let me ask, I probably asked you this a few years ago when you gave up a morning show on, you were there for how many years on BTL?
Well, I did the morning show 10 years.
Wow. Yeah.
But I did other show, I did a 13-year gig on WGY, much, a bigger station in the Albany market. And then I basically did radio all through my life. I started in 1962.
But let me ask you, you were at that point, I think one of the reasons you said that you gave up is, it was a morning show. I'd get up really early in the morning. It was just it was time you felt. Do you regret or do you miss doing morning radio as opposed to, pre-recording?
I miss it, but I don't regret not doing that after 2014. The main reason, the getting up early is a tough thing, as you probably know, because you have to get up early to do this show. But what I was afraid of, I retired, if you will, in November, was the winter, because it was hard to get there. Mm-hmm. And, as I get older, my driving skills are not as good. And I knew, and the radio station was in kind of a challenging place. It was on top of the hill just south of Amsterdam, got a lot of blowing snow and drifting snow up there. So I just didn't want to kind of fight my way through the snow. So that was basically why I gave up.
And they couldn't have done what you're doing now. They couldn't have just rigged you up.
I suppose we could, but there wasn't a great interest in that then on their part. That's true. It would have been it's possible, and in fact now it's more likely. They would have said, "Oh, sure, let's just hook you up and you can leave your bedroom and go right to the main room and go." But I was doing until like the pandemic started. In addition to the podcast, which we do on our own, I was doing a weekly public affairs show for an Albany station, half-hour interview. And it ended up, we were doing them like I do the podcast. I'd be home, Dave studio, we record the person on the phone. But as the pandemic started, they got rid of that, or that's such a term, isn't it? Got rid of. But anyway, they did. But it's not like the only thing they did. I mean, other people, who really maybe depended on a job for their livelihood, lost their jobs and so on and so forth. And I keep in touch with them periodically, but there doesn't seem to be great interest in reviving this. So.
Well, let me ask one before we're going to let our panelists in for our today, yesterday trivia quiz. So you'll be playing
about theater, you're saying, right?
No. There might be a theater question or two, but it's history. No. We're not going to throw 4,000 questions about the Richard Rodgers Theater at you. No,
I know.
It can be anything. It's history. It's the history of the world of things that happened on November 14th. That's the kind of thing.
Oh, really? That kind of stuff. Oh.
Yeah. But while I bring our one of our two other guests in, let me ask you, besides me, who is your favorite guest on the radio? And it could be on your podcast now, or it can be on BTL or the other station you mentioned, when you were doing those.
Right. Well, I think I'll give the same answer I gave you once when you were doing something in a former porno theater in New York. Wasn't it?
Yes.
What was that show you were doing?
That was Stage Buddy Live. I was working for
Okay.
Stage Buggy, a company there. And
That's,
looking for
well,
a lot of
anyway,
the-
I'd have to say Kirk Douglas, you know, he came from my hometown. Like I'm speaking to you from 14 miles away or 15 miles away from Kirk Douglas's birthplace. So,
and it's Kurt. Well, yeah. I mean, you don't even
in
have
fact,
to
I've
think-
made a podcast out of the Kirk Douglas material that I have because he came back to his hometown, which is Amsterdam, New York.
Oh, wow.
Well, he came more than once, but he came once when they made a big deal of it when he was in his in his robust sort of late middle age in the 80s, and it was called Kirk Douglas Day, and he went back to his old neighborhood where my father lived, also, you know, with that old neighborhood and so on and so forth. So he's probably been the most interesting guy. But I get excited about people like Jeanette Conant that I was telling you about, the cancer story, or this AP reporter is a man named Chris Carolla. In terms of showbiz, not too long ago, I was watching CBS Sunday Morning, you know, being an old person. I mean, that's what you do with
Yeah,
this.
absolutely.
And I love CBS Sunday Morning, and they did a show about CBS. And I always liked CBS. In fact, I worked for CBS once up in Boston. No, don't worry, it wasn't that great. I worked for they owned a radio station up in Boston, WEEI. And I did weekend news, and I produced some talk shows, you know, answered the phones, and it didn't last long. But I remember when they hired me, the program director said, "You're going to get the same paycheck, son, as Walter Cronkite, except his is a bigger check." So anyway, on CBS Sunday Morning, they interviewed a guy named George Schweitzer, who was the CBS TV promo guy, and he had just retired. And I don't know if he's going to write a book or what he's going to do, but apparently he would save all these sort of wacky promotional items in his office. So probably the piece de resistance was he had a toaster which would burn the CBS eye into a piece of toast. And also there were CBS eggs. One year and other companies have done this. They would put on eggs. Apparently they can stamp an egg with something, and like when, I don't know, I can't remember if this is one of their shows. Hawaii 5-0 was starting up again. You'd go to make your omelet or something, and it'd say Hawaii 5-0. So
I love the idea of that, of like somebody, you know, it's almost like a Letterman prop that actually works, of just stamping this logo on like a piece of toast.
Well, the thing was, he didn't actually bite on that. He didn't buy it for CBS, but they made a prototype for him, so he still got the toaster. And on television, when they did the piece, he made a piece of toast that showed the CBS eye.
Oh, that's fabulous. We lost our guest. I think he thought we weren't going to get him on. So I need to sort of send a rather quick and desperate email to one of the people who should be signing on momentarily.
Oh wait, there's new messages. Hold on.
Just if there's a thing, please tell them to log back on. So Bob,
I love hearing Joyce off camera. This reminds me of Stephen Colbert's show. You hear
really, I
people
haven't
talking
seen.
off
Does he have
camera.
someone off mic and doing?
Yeah,
Huh. Well,
he
just-
probably stole that from you.
Oh, absolutely. He steals everything from me. It's including the occasional Republican-leaning
So she
commentary.
has
Oh, that's
she has a thing for.
yeah.
I think you might have given the wrong. Let's see.
It's the same thing as.
Look what happens. See, that's what she gets when she clicks on.
Oh,
Give it to me.
yeah. David found it. Hold on. I'm sorry. Everybody, talk amongst yourselves. Bob, tell us a little more about your podcast while I send an email. Just tell us a little more about and where people can go. Obviously, your website and how often you do them and so forth.
All right, we do it once a week. I mean, a new one every week, and you can find them all archived, or most of them, at bobcudmore.com. That's my website. bobcudmore.com. We also
Email her.
throw it
You
out
can
to,
email both. I'm sorry, yeah.
oh, go ahead. We
Sorry.
throw it out to Google and to Apple. But the other, like, a service that we use is SoundCloud. We're on SoundCloud. And also we have a little radio coverage. In fact, on Saturday, for example, later today, about 12:30, the radio station I started at, which was not WVTL, but it was
Yeah.
WCSS in Amsterdam, they will air the show. And it sort of has a variable start time, much like Dave's Gone By. It's the
Well, that was an accident this morning. We were broadcasting without actually knowing it. So it was privately on Facebook, so I could watch myself, which was always fun, but nobody else could until about a quarter after. So anyway, we're gonna just we'll hang.
Please see your email for the link.
Yeah. So what else? What else do I want to ask? Now that we have a little more time than I thought we would, let me get to the extra questions.
Yeah, just if you
The extra well.
But then you got it. Leslie wants an email, so I said, please see your email for the link.
Yeah, I mean it's the same link as last week.
Bob, it's just technical problems, Bob. It's not you, it's us.
Oh, I understand. It happens to us all the time. Happens to everybody all the time.
Yeah. I mean, but that's, at least when it's not live, you can kind of, it doesn't matter as much. You get it done. Can I ask us, aside from having Kirk Douglas on the show,
Right.
do you have a proudest moment of your years in broadcasting?
Well, in my years in broadcasting, it was during a snowstorm, which is the kind of broadcasting that I used to do, especially when I was on WGY, which is an AM radio station, that covers a lot of ground. And this happened in numerous storms, but, we usually, I would go into the station, and I'd stay there for maybe a day or two or three,
Wow, really? You would make that
yeah.
you'd sleep on the floor? Yeah,
sleep on the floor or whatever. But the storm that it was the most memorable, I'm trying to think of the date. I think it was 1987. It was pretty much localized to the Albany area of upstate New York. It was an early snowstorm. It was October 4th. And we had like 6 to 10 inches of snow. So it caused tremendous power outages. And the power was out for a long period of time for a lot of people. So for some reason, we never lost power. We never went to generator power or anything like that. We just were there, both in the studio and in the transmitter. So we were a lifeline to a lot of people. And folks will still remember that. Like, I don't know, let's mention one woman in particular. She's a regular guest on public radio now up here, a woman named Judy Ank. And she recalls that, her lights went out and we were about the only thing you could get, back then, 87. Oh, maybe somebody's coming. 87, we didn't have our phone, our smartphones or anything like that. So it was filling a need, Dave, filling a need.
Well, you fill a need for me to have great guests on the program, Bob Cudmore. You're going to hang with us because now finally one of our people came. This is the lovely Leslie Hoban Blake. She has made it to the show. We had David about to come on, and then he sort of disappeared. We're hoping he's going to come back. But we have Leslie. Leslie, can we hear you? Let's get that mic on.
Yes. I'm on my phone, however. I am not on my computer because my computer is not connected to the internet for some reason. I have no idea what's going on. I don't understand my life anymore. I really don't.
Isn't that the truth? None of us do.
And we're not even locked down again yet. So, I just don't know what's going on. I'm trying to use the settings to get my...
Visually, we got you. We hear your voice. So we're good. We're actually, you could come closer or angle it a little more.
The way I have this set up, I can't really come any closer. One way, if I turn it this way, how's that? Is that better?
Ooh, that looks better.
There you go.
Okay, only 20 years as a director to understand how to turn the phone sideways. Okay. Good morning.
Where's
Good
David?
morning.
Morning.
I don't know. He was waiting in the waiting room for like 2-3 minutes
You haven't text him.
before I could let him in. Please do. I don't know if I ever texted him on the phone. I don't know if I have a thing for him. But anyway, I've messaged him here on Facebook because right now, Bob, you are looking at Leslie Hoban Blake. She's a longtime theater director and theater critic. She has a podcast of her own with our friend Charlie Gross called Critics Circle. And,
Sounds
Good
good.
morning. Good morning.
doing?
And Leslie, you
I
are
don't have
talking to me
I
and Bob
can't see you
Cudmore.
now, but I saw you when I first came in. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, and Leslie, today I'm the king of technical difficulties. Wednesday, Leslie invited me and
Please.
Charlie
You're not
to
going to
a
relive
trivia
that, are you?
quiz. You would figure people would have a handle on this now. I've been doing this show in various guises for 18 years. And learning how the internet. People have been in the lockdown for 9 months, and still, it's like every time you have to go on and dial a number or hit a URL and just do something, it's like it's not working. What's the matter? Something's always wrong. I don't
Well,
understand.
not only that, but I can't believe how upset I got by it. I was truly,
Oh, you were.
I was schwitzing. I was like on edge. I didn't know any answers anyway. They were the dumbest questions. I knew
Well, thank
almost
you.
no.
I thought you were talking about my questions. No, there were some of them were difficult. They were kind of like, whoa, is
So
this
they were all
trivia
over
quiz?
the place, and I couldn't see them when I needed to, and then I couldn't type it. Thank God for Charlie typing in. At least we got some answers in. But I mean,
Yeah,
we
I don't
didn't
know.
even
It
make
worked in.
we
It worked
didn't
out
even make
okay.
the leaderboard. You know, for somebody as
So,
competitive as I am, that was a terrible thing to have happen.
I don't know why or where David Sheward went. We're gonna have to just start the quiz, and we'll make it a
Aw.
yeah.
David usually does his
Okay, I mean, I could have let him in, but we're in the middle of a conversation. He could have waited 2-3 minutes. It's like nobody's got patience anymore. Nobody can wait 2 minutes for something. It's like
People are getting shot over parking
I nailed
spots
them
in
both.
Manhattan. What are you talking about? Patience. What are you talking about? You know?
well, we're in instant gratification. That's the thing we've lost. It's everything is so. You want something to eat, you microwave it, 45 seconds, it's done. You want something to watch, you go on Netflix, you click it, it's there, it's done. You want a song to play, you don't have to wait for it to come on the radio. You don't have to go to a record store. You don't have to put it on a spindle. You don't have to put the needle down. It's like you click it on Spotify, it's there, it's done. And anytime that anything in the world is not like that.
That's
we-
right. That's right.
Right.
Yeah. I wonder
Damn
if
straight.
if caveman is saying, "Where's my mastodon?" No, you have to go out and kill it. All right,
Just ask Leslie, does Dave Sheward's
Well, that's how they invented sushi back in the day.
But do you know if David Sheward's phone number starts with 917? Don't give it. But if you happen to,
I believe so, yeah.
you know, I can find. Actually, I
I'm
can.
pretty sure I can't do it because I'm on my phone with you, so I can't find it now. I'm
Well, I
sorry.
can
But
actually.
I do believe, yes, I do believe it's a 917.
Let me. Let's see. No, I have his old number at backstage. My God.
So you don't have I think Leslie,
Oh, wow. You still have that on in your phone book, huh?
Hold on. I think I have it.
Are you guys chilly out there? It's chilly this morning.
It should be sunny, but it seems really nice.
Yeah, I know I'm going out when this is over, but I haven't been out, so I don't know yet. It's gorgeous. I've shown you my view. Can you see my view from where you are?
Well,
Yeah.
it's very light.
Window.
'cause
So I have the water, and you can't tell if it's cold or hot. It's just beautiful.
Well, it's
but
the
I can't-
Hudson. It's probably just brown.
No, don't make fun of the Hudson. It's bright blue.
Where are you?
I'm on 12th Avenue and 42nd Street.
Ah, very good. Oh,
She's
Leslie.
adjusting her camera.
You guys, do you still have? Oh, there you are.
It was
Okay.
nighttime in 12th Avenue. It became nighttime very quickly. So
It's
anyway, we're
12th
going to start the quiz.
42nd.
We're trying to get David Sheward on, but who knows where he went. So here's the quiz. It's called the Today Yesterday quiz, because today is November 14th. We're going to ask about all the yesterdays that were November 14th. Oh, wait, suddenly he's here. Hold on. Perfect timing.
Here he comes.
Yay! The game's over.
Hello. Hello. You couldn't wait
Hello.
2 minutes? Hello.
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 My stupid husband decided he didn't like the way the plugs were plugged in for our new cable.
Oh.
And he decided, just after I said, I'm going online now, I'm doing this thing right now. Oh, I think I'll unplug everything.
Tell David those are famous last words.
David, at least you have somebody to blame it on. I just have myself to blame it on.
Plugs are.
Same thing happened with Jack Kevorkian, you know, and Sonny Von Bulow. Her
Yeah.
husband was like, you know,
I
I'm
know,
not liking the way you're
Just
not-
after I said I'm about to go online and do this little, you know, this fun little thing. Oh, I think I'll experiment with the plugs here.
Thank you for making that word fun. I thought something else was going to happen. And Leslie, I just thought you fell. I thought you fell like
Oh, my
400
phone
feet.
fell. Yeah, no, I'm fine. My phone fell, but that's, you know,
Yeah,
such
because
is life.
we
I'm
had.
gonna just ride the bike quietly while
I'm
we
sorry.
talk.
We had an internet outage yesterday, and
Oh dear.
Well, all right.
Everybody
Well,
did, or you did?
I'm sorry? What?
Did the world have one, or you did? Because
In
Wednesday the
Queens.
world had one.
Yeah, Wednesday YouTube
Tell
went out.
Tell David it was Optimum. It was Optimum. We had a friend in Bushwick who lost cable.
Oh, so
Oh.
yeah. So that's
Yeah,
what happened. But there was a worldwide YouTube outage too.
Yeah,
For
for like a couple of hours.
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well,
Anyway.
I'm sorry about that.
Let me do a one last introduction so everybody knows each other, because I haven't introduced
Okay.
David Sheward, former president of the Drama Desk and longtime theater critic, theater writer, wrote a book about George C. Scott, which you might be kind of interested in,
And
and,
also knows a lot of history.
knows quite a lot of history. He's an English. Oh no, you're a history teacher now, aren't you?
Well, in English and English, yes.
English, and so I didn't think you were a history, but
Well, I'm actually a special ed teacher, so I'm supposed to know how to teach everything.
oh, I didn't realize that. And you have to teach everything dumbed down, which is kind of the best way to do it.
Oh, David, don't go there, please. Don't.
Everything what?
What?
Don't repeat it.
Don't,
Don't
yeah,
repeat
no. Oh!
There's the duck.
There
You
was-
This
figure it
week's
out, David.
talisman.
Stewart.
Rabbit
Tell
season,
Bob he's
yeah.
supposed to bring a stuffed animal.
Yeah, I didn't mention, well, Bob has a stuffed microphone.
I do.
That's his talisman.
I brought my little friend today. My very little friend.
Oh, he's sweet. Is that a fox or what is that?
No, it's
Again-
a teddy. It's a teddy bear. It's
What's
a
it
teddy bear dressed up for winter, and he's what do you call it? He's a finger puppet.
And we, of course, have Potato here because
Oh, the potato head.
And so we all have some sort of cloth implement to get us through our today, yesterday quiz with 3 contestants. Oh, and that's, by the way, Bob Cudmore,
Yeah.
David. So, well, welcome to all of you to Dave's Gone By. It's a little bit after 11 o'clock. It's our 772nd episode. We're calling it Cudcession Speech.
I
Get
know.
it? Yeah. Oh, got our bell ready.
That's in your honor, Bob, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Cudcession Speech. Get it? So,
Oh, I get it.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
all right. We have 3 contestants. So here are the rules. So I forgot to put the die roll thing. So I've got to do that now. Roll die. First of all, what I'm going to ask you all to do is to pick a number between 2 and 12.
Who goes first?
I'm gonna say it was 6.
You go up. Who goes first? I have to roll the die to figure out who goes first on
No, I
that.
mean, oh, all right. I'll say 7. 7.
So Sheward is 7. Leslie, ladies. Well, actually, guest. Bob,
I'd
what
say it was
number
6.
between other than 7? Pick a number.
6. I always take 6.
So Leslie is 6. Bob, can you hear me?
I'll take 4.
Bob is 4. And Leslie, of course, is 6. We're going to roll the die. This determines who gets to go first if they choose to go first. So let me get back to my happy little roll-a-die thing. There it is. So what I'm doing, Bob, just so you know, is I'm going to a website where it rolls a pair of dice.
Okay.
That's what he
And
tells
so-
us, Bob. We have to believe him. That's what he says.
I know.
So here we go. But we're going to roll it. Let's roll. No, I don't want an easy access Chrome shortcut. Hold on. Why is it doing this? Well, I have to click the plus sign. Here we go. Let's go
my
roll.
no, I still don't have internet on my computer. I'm still trying.
We see you.
Okay, the
Oh,
number,
I'm on my phone, that's why.
so the number came up number 12.
Oh my God.
So David Sheward with his number 7 is the closest
Oh, okay.
to 12. So
Okay.
you can go first, or you can choose to go second or third. Which do you prefer?
I would like to go first.
So David goes first, and then we're gonna roll the die one more time.
Another time you're going to roll the
This is
dice?
to get
Well,
tied.
this
Want to
determines
make
who
sure
goes
that
second or
nobody's
third.
cheating.
So Leslie, you came up with a 6. So do you
Yes.
choose to go second or third?
I'll go second.
So Leslie will go second, and then Bob
I guess I go third.
by process of elimination.
Yeah, not much of a choice.
By the way,
there.
are all three of us from New York and David's out in Colorado?
I'm in Queens.
You're in Queens?
And I'm on Long Island, by the way, Bob. I've been living back on Long Island for a year and a half.
Oh, was that a fact? I
Yeah.
guess I was uninformed. All
We
right.
moved from Colorado, came back. I'm living with my parents, and no,
Well,
You're
What
still
the heck?
voting in Colorado.
that is correct. We still have I still have my driver's license from there.
I'm gonna write you know who and tell them you're one of those
You're cheap.
non-residential
You're one of those-
voters.
Why would you?
You're
I
one of those
voted for Biden.
Well, no, I'm
You're one
joking.
of
Oh
those-
yeah.
You're one
No,
of those dead people who keeps voting.
Sometimes I
it's an
feel
all
like
New York
that.
State quiz.
So
Voter.
here's the deal. The questions are 2 points apiece. If you get it wrong, you don't have any penalty, but one of the other contestants gets the chance to steal and answer the question instead. Okay? That's, I think, all you really need to know. There's 9 questions plus 1 tiebreaker. Each person gets 3 questions apiece. Here we go. You guys ready?
Yes.
Ready?
You guys been ready for poor Bob's been ready for half an hour. Let's just start. All right. The first question does go to David Sheward. And the question is the year 1524. I know that's one of your favorite years.
Yes.
With 80 men and 40 horses, this explorer set out on his first expedition. His goal was Peru, but this time he made it only to Colombia. Name him.
Huh.
Mhm.
15.
I'll read the question again. The year was 1524. And by the way, folks playing at home, you're welcome to type in your answers on our
Right.
Facebook
We
page.
know it's not Christopher Columbus.
No.
Because in
yeah.
1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Or if it was the Hudson, it would be the ocean brown.
Somebody said I have a teddy bear puppet.
So it could be Magellan.
Dr.
Could
Sue.
be,
Dr. Sue said tell Leslie she has a teddy bear puppet.
Dr.
Dr. Sue sings her song about soul cooking.
Oh, there's a guest we're going to have on the show in a week or two called Dr. Sue Horowitz. She says she also has a teddy bear puppet. Oh, that's right. She shows it on her videos. I'll explain later. Let me
All
read the question again. 80
so,
men, 40 horses. This explorer set out on his first expedition. His goal was Peru, but this time he made it only to Colombia. Who
Colombia.
I'm
Well-
going to guess and say Magellan.
is that your final answer?
Yes, yes.
Well, David Sheward, you're incorrect. No, that is not the answer. It is not Magellan. So now we get a chance to steal. So here's the deal. Generally, we're gonna, how do we do this? We generally have, Leslie, you're usually what, 1 and 2 is your usual?
We didn't do it that way. I'm in the middle, so I'm 3 and 4.
You're usually 3 and 4. Bob?
I think it goes in order of
Yes.
our number, right?
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, or what I can do, since Bob is the guest, I will ask you, would you rather be 1 and 2 or 5 and 6?
1 and 2. I don't know what that means really, but I'll
You
take
will.
1 and 2.
Just answer the question.
Going to roll the die again, and then if
Okay.
your number comes up, you get to steal.
I see.
Don't worry, David will tell.
Yeah, David knows the thing. So now I have to get down to back to 1 die, and I'm not sure why it's not letting me do that.
Did you choose, Bob, did you choose a number?
Well, well, originally I chose 4.
No. Now
that's
you have to
different. This is
choose
different.
between,
Hold on. Here we go. Are you ready? Are you ready, guys? I'm going to roll.
Somebody wanting to guess.
He said 1
he
and 2.
hasn't chosen his number yet.
He said 1 and 2. You said 1 and 2.
I didn't
Yeah,
hear it,
one
I'm
and-
sorry.
Bob
Yeah,
is 1 and 2.
Sue
My
wants
One-
puppet was talking to me, I'm sorry.
She
Stop
is
it,
her
I
guess.
talk when we're playing.
All right. I rolled on my roll a die thing. I rolled a 5, which means that David Sheward, that's your number. So you got that wrong. So he doesn't get to go again.
Okay. so you
However,
again.
I can roll 1 more time. And the number comes up 1. So,
That's
Bob
one of
Cudmore,
mine.
you get to steal. Can you answer the question in 1524? This explorer, his first expedition, the goal was Peru, made it to Colombia. Who was he?
I'm not too confident with this answer. I'll say, I think it's Amerigo Vespucci.
Amerigo Vespucci. Is that your final answer, sir?
That is.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Guest. No, Bob, it was not Amerigo Vespucci.
Yeah.
Leslie gets a chance to finally, perhaps, steal the question. Leslie, do you have an answer?
Yeah, I do, because you guys are in the wrong country. You're both in Italy, and it's Spain. Now I have to decide if it's Pizarro or Cortez. I'm going to say Pizarro just because I like saying it. Pizarro.
And because this
Pizarro.
particular program is Bizarro, ladies and gentlemen, Leslie Hoban Blake, you get the 2 points.
He got it. All right.
Francisco Pizarro
Oh.
Gonzalez.
Interesting that you said it with an Italian accent, although you said.
I know, because no, then I said it with a Spanish accent. I said Pizarro.
Do you ever notice
The
that if
second
you try and do an Italian accent and say, oh, it's great, but if you try and do a Spanish accent, you sound racist. You go, he's Francisco Pizarro, he's not good. You sound like
That's
Speedy
Mexican.
Gonzalez.
That's more like a Mexican.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Lin-Manuel Noriega you're doing.
Hamilton was the slave owner.
So Leslie gets
Leslie's ahead.
2 points. She is in the lead already. And now let's see, we're going in the order of
David
Sheward,
Sheward,
Leslie
you
Blake,
don't know
and-
what you missed Wednesday night. You don't know how important those 2 points are to me.
Oh,
Man. All right, so our next person answering a question is actually going to be Leslie. So she gets to build on her lead because she goes next in the order. It's David, Leslie, and Bob. So Leslie, the second question goes to you. The year 1732. Today, American colonist Louis Timothy took this part-time job for £9 a year. What was the job? It's a multiple choice. Okay. Was it first American veterinarian for house pets rather than farm animals? Planned the design for Philadelphia's Rittenhouse Square? Was the first American librarian? Or he was a Quaker pastor who first introduced the idea of communal quiet services? David's getting bored already. Look at that. All right. So, but the question goes to Leslie, and I will read it again. I'll give you the choices.
Tell her to
1730.
type it in on the app.
Or you can, I guess you can she?
No,
Or
type it in on the app. I'm making.
1732 was the year. Colonist Louis Timothy took this part-time job for £9 a year. What was the job? Was it A, first American veterinarian for house pets? B, planned the design for Philadelphia's Rittenhouse Square? C, was the first American librarian? Or D, he was a Quaker pastor who first introduced the idea of communal quiet services? Leslie, do you have
Those
any
are
ideas?
great choices. I love the choices because they
Oh.
really throw you off. But I happen to have been a school librarian. So that's one that kind of, if you work in a library, I think you're supposed to know that, or you're not allowed to work in a library. And I'm not sure about the pronunciation because it had a double E at the end. I remember you're pronouncing it Timothy. I always thought it was like Timothy, but he was a
It
librarian.
may well be. Yeah.
I don't know. None of us will know because it goes back to an earlier pronunciation anyway.
No, but Leslie, I'm not even going to make any prevarication about this. You knew it. You got it. Yes. He was the first paid American librarian. Wow. Did either of you know that? Do either of you have even the other two?
I would have guessed.
No, I have no
I
idea.
would have guessed.
I was going to go with
Courtesy
the
of
communal
Benjamin
silence.
Franklin, by the way.
Yeah, he
know-
was
Courtesy of
hired by Ben
Benjamin
Franklin.
Yeah, I
to do that.
Something to do with it.
And it was a library that Franklin created out of his own philanthropy.
Exactly.
So,
I knew it wasn't
was
a
30 years.
veterinarian thing.
Sorry? I didn't hear Bob.
Say it again, Bob.
I said I knew it wasn't the veterinarian thing.
How did you know that?
I just figured even in 1640, there probably were veterinarians for house pets.
Good point.
That's my
Yeah.
idea. But
Well,
You think? Really?
yeah,
you figure all the
I wouldn't have thought
queens in the
so.
court would have had them, like, but anyway, wow. Leslie has 4 points. It's so far zip, zip, but with the other two. But Bob, you haven't had a chance to go yet. Guess what? This is your
This is
question.
mine?
Not today,
Oh,
yesterday
boy.
Oh
quiz.
boy.
Drum roll, please.
Hold on, I gotta find
Go ahead, Bob.
I'm
The
taking
year
Knock us
B.
dead.
1851 is the year. Published today in the United States is Herman Melville's epic Moby Dick. Though he's the best known character, Captain Ahab doesn't physically show up until chapter 28. For 1 point, name the story's narrator, and for the second, the pagan cannibal turned whaler who bunks with and befriends the narrator early in the novel.
That would be Ishmael and Queequeg.
Good man.
Whoa, dude!
Good man.
You know, Herman Melville wrote a lot of that in Pittsfield, Massachusetts.
I mean, we've had guests on who didn't get any points the whole quiz.
They were actually horrified.
2 points for Bob. What were you going to say?
No, I just said that Melville wrote Moby Dick, I believe, when he was living in the Berkshires, which where I used to live and work over by Pittsfield.
Whoa.
Also, he had some connection to Albany. He went to school in Albany or something like that.
And it showed up. There was something fishy about Moby Dick, though.
It was.
Yeah, a tale to tell. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Has seen the whale.
Now, yeah, you got a question right. You get to spout off, huh?
That's right.
Oh.
Just like the whale.
Oh God.
I'm just trying to lose some of this blubber. But here we go. All right, now let's move on to the next. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Let's move on.
It's Scrimshaw connection.
It's our next round. So we go back to David Sheward.
I almost did a spit take of my coffee just now, David. No, David's almost made me do a spit take.
Oh, good Lord. All right. 1905 is the year. David Sheward.
Okay.
This question is for you.
1905.
Better known for its later incarnation as the opera La Fanciulla del West. The Girl of the Golden West. You're nodding already. The Girl of the Golden West.
La Funicola.
No, it's Fanciulla. Fanciulla del West.
Fanciulla.
Yeah. Opens tonight on Broadway
I apologize. Okay.
at the playwright's own theater.
Uh-huh.
For 1 point, name the author of the play. And for the second point, name the composer of the opera.
Well, I believe that it is the Belasco. And the opera, the composer is Puccini, which there is one song in there which Andrew Lloyd Webber stole for Phantom of the Opera, if you listen to it.
That's right.
Turn your thoughts away from the garish lights of day. Is actually from Girl of the Golden West. So my answer is Belasco and Puccini.
You had it. You said it. You said it. And yes, David Sheward, you are absolutely
He's right.
correct. It was David Belasco. He was a playwright. He also put the show in his own theater, the Belasco Theater. And Giacomo Puccini was the composer of Fanciulla del West. So excellent.
I have said that wrong my entire life. I do apologize.
Well, because the I is after the C, not before it. It's not funiculi, funicula. Sorry?
Just glad
Yeah,
that
you're
wasn't
right.
my question.
The funicular of the Golden West.
Yes, that's the one about the trolley that goes up to the mountains.
And Leslie, it's the Girl of the Golden West. You've been saying that wrong all this whole time, too. It's unfortunate. David Sheward, you get 2 points.
Right.
So now it's Leslie still in the lead. 2, Leslie 4, and
Leslie, how many ounces?
1.
Leslie, how big is that coffee mug? How
It's
let's see
2
that.
cups.
Whoa, oh, that's pretty good.
It looks bigger on it. I've been drinking out of it, and it looks normal on my computer on the phone because of the
Right.
the spatial differential. It looks enormous, but it's just 2 cups. You know, it's a standard travel mug. I like to keep the coffee hot while I drink it.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, let us move on because now Leslie though gets to build up. Oh, look at that.
This is
No, wait,
where
what
I
do you
start
call
to
him?
fall apart.
That's Daffy, even though he's dressed as bugs. What's
Yes.
that? What's he doing now?
Oh, look at that!
That's a 14-karat joke right there. I don't even know.
Oh,
Okay.
no, you shouldn't
Is
do
that his Halloween costume?
Now he's trying to fool Elmer Fudd.
Mm-mm.
I know.
I'm not a rabbit.
All right, here we go. Leslie, this question is for you to build upon your lead. 1960 was the year. Reaching #1 on the Billboard charts today is Georgia on My Mind, performed by Ray Charles. He would have 2 more #1 hits in his career. Name one of them.
You know, I can do the songs in my head and I can't come up with the titles.
I'll read the question again. 1960,
Was it WAP?
on this day, it was not WAP. Reaching #1 on the Billboard charts today is Georgia on My Mind, performed by Ray Charles. He would have 2 more #1 hits in his career. Name one of them.
I see him playing, I see the girls moving, and I cannot, damn it to hell.
That's not what it was called.
Oh, Hit the Road Jack.
Bad title.
Is that, you said, what,
Is that not the, well,
Well, no,
there's a
I'm
song that
asking you, is
sang
it your
about Hit the
answer?
Road Jack.
so you're going
Was
with
that
that?
not the title?
I can't tell you whether it's a title. What is,
Oh, okay,
just,
all right. Well, the only thing that I can think of is Hit the Road Jack.
well done, Leslie. Hit the Road
Oh,
Jack,
thank
indeed, was one of his
Yay.
#1 songs. You get both points.
I had to really dig for that one. Christ.
So, but before I say the other one,
The other one,
not for any points, but which? Do you guys want to chime in?
what I say.
Wasn't
That
what I
was the
say, did
one.
not hit #1.
Hmm.
Bob, you want to try?
That would have been my other guess.
I Can't Stop Loving You.
There
That
you
could be
go.
it. Yeah.
That was the other #1. Well done.
TMI.
This is saying TMI. David, we were looking for a song title there, not how you feel about me. So,
I was talking to Daffy. I'm
oh,
loving you. I made up my mind to live
So-
in misery
oh, he's doing FUD.
all the live long time.
Oh man.
Is that your,
Keep
is
talking,
that
Dave.
your
I'm
Ray
gonna go get
Charles
a stuffed
impression for the
animal.
morning?
Oh, Bob, can you wait? Bob, no, don't go yet. Oh,
Bob, wait for your question. It's time for your question.
why does everybody leave just when I'm about to ask them the question?
He's
No,
getting his
Bob,
stuffed
come
animal.
back.
He's getting his stuffed animal.
I know.
Let him get a stuffed animal.
But he could have done it during the other question of the other person.
Well,
right.
that's what you think.
I was also remembering when we were talking about Explorers, the Bugs Bunny cartoon, when he and Christopher Columbus go before the King and Queen of Spain.
Yeah.
And, try to get the money and to finance Christopher Columbus's voyage. What Bugs Bunny is doing in 1492 Spain, we don't know.
Yeah, well, it's just, what is Bugs Bunny doing really anywhere? But so, Bob, when did you bring us back?
And the
I brought back Baby Elephant,
Oh,
I can't see.
or
I
we
can't
call him
say
sometimes
Baby
Baby E.
Baby
Aw.
E.
Oh.
Hi, baby E.
That was
Came out of your trunk?
Ah.
Yeah.
that was my last gift to the lovely Miss Audrey. So,
Oh, it was alive and well, by the way. They make it
she was
sound like,
alive and
yeah,
well, yes.
yeah, not
I mean, it wasn't the last gift because she perished. No.
Right. last recent gift, most recent.
It's most
gift, more
recent
likely.
gift.
Do you have a name?
Wait, David, somebody gives gifts to their wife? What's that?
What? No, I didn't hear. What?
Oh, Bob, you've done it now.
I have.
Didn't hear that.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, sorry. What do you call? Is it named? Is it E? You said E?
E.
Yeah, we call him Baby Elephant
Oh, baby elephant. That's
or Baby
very
E.
creative. Baby
As
E.
opposed to
It's for
Baby
elephant.
Shark, because Baby Shark starts that horrible song.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
don't want
yes,
to
of
do
course.
that.
He's got
Baby
this cute little tuft of hair on top there.
Oh,
She knows I do
yeah,
too.
yeah. There's some. He has a tuft of hair too. You just can't see because of the hat, because
Right.
his potato pattern baldness. It's an unfortunate thing.
You guys really like to talk, don't you?
He takes pogain. It's really anyway. I don't know where we're going with this. Ladies and gentlemen, now I have to keep track. I think Bob, it's your question.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
So,
Oh dear.
Yes, it
What-
is.
The elephant, it's Bob's question.
The year, See,
Oh,
the
wait a
theater
minute.
people didn't get this one. You did. 1964 was the year. Closing today after 774 performances at the Imperial Theater is Oliver, Lionel Bart's classic adaptation of Dickens's Oliver Twist. The show has not been revived much in New York, but London has had a few remounts. A number of actors have played Fagin in the West End, but which of these thespians has not?
Oh, good.
This is
Multiple
a
choice.
multiple choice.
Good.
Eddie Izzard, Rowan Atkinson, Jonathan Pryce, Ron Moody.
Say it again.
Well, I must say, I'm not a theater person. I have no idea who any of those people are, but I'll say Ron Moody.
You will say Ron Moody.
Hmm.
Oh, you're going, is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
Okay, let's hold on. Oh, Pickle is
I was
upset.
hoping for a question about Dickens, but then again.
Yeah. So I'll read the question again because, Bob, I'm afraid you want some more, but you can't get some more on this question. 1964 closing today after 774 performances is Oliver, the classic musical adaptation of Oliver Twist. New York really hasn't, I think there was one Oliver revival in New York, on Broadway anyway. But London has had a few. A number of actors have played Fagin in the West End. Which of these thespians has not? You said Ron Moody. Oh, Doogie, it was not Moody. No, that is not correct. So we get to roll a die.
Roll the die.
Roll that die.
Who gets to
The
steal?
elephant's disappointed. So.
Yeah.
And it came up with a number 1. So number 1's Bob again. I'm going to roll the die again.
Sorry. Okay.
And it's now, so came up number 2. Gonna roll the die again. And it came up with number 2. I wouldn't be faking this, Leslie. This is
Okay. Keep going.
all right. Oh, we got a number 5. So David Sheward,
Okay.
potentially for the steal.
All right.
Do you want me to read the names again? I can do that.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
They are Eddie Izzard, Rowan Atkinson, Jonathan Pryce, or Ron Moody, who did not play
Okay.
Fagin in a London revival.
Okay. All right. Now, Ron Moody did do it, and he did the movie and was nominated for an Oscar. And I think he did the Broadway revival with Patti LuPone in the '80s at the Mark Hellinger.
He even knows the theater. All right, yeah.
Which was, well, because that was the only time I was in that theater before it became a church. Jonathan Pryce, I'm pretty sure, did do it in London. So it's either Eddie Izzard or Rowan Atkinson. And there are arguments for either of them. Bless you. I don't think it was Eddie Izzard. I can see Rowan Atkinson doing it, although I wouldn't, if I were a casting director, I would not pick him. So I'll say Eddie Izzard.
Did not, the answer is did not.
He did
right?
not do it. Oh.
And the answer is, whoops, sorry about that. The answer is absolutely correct. Well done, David Sheward.
Okay.
Eddie Izzard did not play Fagin. Rowan Atkinson played it in
If I was
2009.
doing the casting, David Sheward, if I were casting that, I would have picked Eddie Izzard in a heartbeat
Oh,
over Rowan Atkinson.
Yeah,
well-
Rowan
Just-
Atkinson did play it.
By-
And
by-
FYI, Bob, Rowan Atkinson, you would know him as Mr. Bean. If you know that actor, that's who that was, or for Blackadder. You might remember him from there. And Jonathan Pryce, if you ever saw Miss Saigon, he was the engineer in that and did a bunch of movies too. So, but anyway, and Ron Moody, as David Sheward said, if you saw the movie Oliver, Ron Moody was Fagin. So he's probably most identified with the role. And who was, remind me, because I didn't write this down, guys, who was the original Fagin on Broadway? It was someone else.
Clive Revell, I think.
Clive, yes, Clive Rebel. Yeah, yep. Well done. So David Sheward, you get 2 more points. You are second because you got 4 points. Leslie
I
has
have 4.
6. Bob
Okay.
has got 2. So let's see. That question had gone to Bob, which means we start our 3rd and final round. And this now question then goes to David, directly to you. You're not stealing. This is your question.
Okay.
The year 1986, $100 million and 3.5 years in prison. That was the penalty for this Wall Street inside trader whose confession helped bring down Michael Milken.
Oh. Let's see. So in 1986.
Mhm.
Come on,
I'll be-
David, we saw this play.
I'll read this again. 100 million and 3.5 years in prison. That was the penalty.
Oh,
Wall Street inside trader whose confession helped bring down Michael Milken.
Oh, yeah, the junk bond king. What was his name? And he was played by Pasquale, Laura Benanni's husband.
Yeah.
Ex-husband, but yeah.
And I can.
Well, he played Michael Milken, but that's not the answer.
The play was called Junk.
Right.
And what was his name? What was his name? I can't think of his name. God, he was the junk bond king. Oh, I can't think of his. I remember Michael Milken, and it wasn't the guy that Robert De Niro played in the HBO movie. That was somebody else.
That was Bernie Madoff.
Yeah. Okay.
I was thinking.
Who was the junk bond king?
I need you to pick a name.
I'm gonna say Michael Junkman. I don't know. I can't think of his name.
Michael Junkman. Yes. No. Of course, you're not correct on that one. So now I think Leslie seems to really, really know this one, but it doesn't mean Leslie gets to answer it. Hold on.
No, Leslie doesn't really know it. Leslie has a picture of the guy in her mind, but I can't come up with a name.
I rolled the die, and the die says 5. So note we got to roll it again. I roll the magical die, and the die comes up number 1. So, Bob,
Yes.
if you know the answer to this question, you can steal. Who took this big penalty, $100 million, 3.5 years in prison for inside trading and helped bring down Michael Milken? Who was that?
I don't know. No clue.
I'm go with that answer. So, Leslie, do you want to at least throw in and try and throw in there?
Mr. Junkman. I saw I can see his face, but I cannot come up with a name. I think there's a K in it. That's as close as I can come.
All right. Well, nobody gets the answer to this one. Let me see if I can give a really stupid hint on this. If one of the Bridges brothers was on the slopes, you would call him
a skier. Ski. I don't know. Back and forth. Skiman?
One of the Bridges brothers. Name a Bridge brother.
Bridge brother?
Bridges.
Bo.
Oh, Bo.
There's Bo, and there's
Bo, Ski? Bronsky?
Yeah,
Bronsky? Boski?
No,
Oh,
Ivan Boski.
Yes, of course, Boski. Right.
What's his name?
That's what two of us to do. Boski.
Ivan
That's
Boski.
what two of us to do.
Oh.
Boski. Yeah.
Boski.
We'll just leave that. Right. I shouldn't have even done it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's see. It's still Leslie 6, David 4, Bob 2. So that question initially went to David, which means that the next question is for Leslie. Now, Leslie can really put it away right here, potentially. This question is for you. 1988 was the year. Murphy Brown debuts on CBS Tonight. Candice Bergen stars, of course, but that's not whom the networks originally wanted for the role. Whom did they want? So it's a multiple choice. Gina Davis, Andrea Martin, Goldie Hawn, Heather Locklear.
Oh, interesting.
I'm just trying to think of a show with any of those people in it. Wow. Goldie Hawn, Heather Locklear, Andrea Martin. Who was the first one?
Gina Davis.
Gina Davis.
So remember, the year's 1988.
I know, 88.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess Gina Davis because she was pretty big and pretty hot in 88. I don't know the answer, but I'm going to guess Gina Davis. Because she's at least an actress, and the other two were not particularly known for being actresses.
Leslie, that was a really good guess. It was a wrong guess, but it was a really good guess.
Oh, okay, well, there you go. Now it's open. Okay,
so
go ahead.
You didn't put the game away. Now we get to roll a die. Okay, and the die comes up number 6. So David Sheward, I'll read the question again, but you get to steal.
All right.
Murphy Brown, Candice Bergen, of course, associated with the role, known for the role. But the networks didn't really want her. They wanted someone else. Whom did they want? Gina Davis, Andrea Martin, Goldie Hawn, or Heather Locklear?
All right. I don't think it was Andrea Martin because she was not a really big, huge star, and they would have wanted a big star. Although she's, a comic genius. So Goldie
He's not
Hawn,
listening, David. It's okay.
Goldie Hawn or Heather Locklear. It wouldn't surprise me if they wanted Heather Locklear, but she wasn't particularly known as a comedian. But the age would have been right. It was supposed to be a woman who was a little bit older, maybe in her upper 40s. So it could have been Goldie Hawn. So either of those I could go with. But Heather Locklear had a big TV queue, so they probably wanted her. So I'm going to say Heather Locklear.
Heather Locklear, is that your final?
Yes.
And this is why you are a teacher, because you reason and you logic, and you were absolutely correct. David Sheward gets the thing.
It would have been awful.
I use reason and logic. I was just wrong. That's all.
Well, they wanted to go, here's the deal. They wanted to skew younger. They wanted kind of a young, hot-looking person, and Diane English, who created the show, just said, no, it's got to be a woman of a certain age, and Bergen's a mature beauty, but this is what I want. So, yeah, well done to David Sheward.
I saw Candace Bergen on Fifth Avenue one day, and my heart stopped. She was so beautiful.
Yes, I've seen her in person. She
was just, it was like there was an aura around her. She was so gorgeous.
People have said that about me. It's really amazing. When I go to like the Stop and Shop, I have to wait before going through the automatic doors because I have to let my aura go first.
So much beauty.
Man. Anyway, it is a tie game at the moment, so we're not completely through with this. Plus, Bob hasn't had his third question yet. And Bob, technically, you could make it a three-way tie depending on how things go if there's a tiebreaker or something like that. So let's. I don't know actually but anyway.
Boski. I just have to remember that. Boski.
Ivan Boski.
2018 is the year, Bob Cudmore. Chop Suey, a painting by this American artist, sold for $92 million at auction. His other works include Two on the Aisle and Automat. Name the artist.
Was it Andy Warhol?
Is that going to be your final answer? Was it Andy Warhol? And thank you for phrasing that in the form of a question. This week especially. And the answer is no, it was not Andy Warhol, Bob. So we get, I'll roll the die and read the question again. The die comes up a beautiful number 2, which means it's Bob, which means you already answered. So it's got to go to somebody else. The answer now is number 3. So Leslie, you can kind of put this away now. Here's the question. 2018 was the year. Chop Suey, painting by this American artist, sold for $92 million at auction. His other works include Two on the Aisle and Automat. Name the artist.
It's funny because our show used to be called Two on the Aisle, so that's funny. You have to bear with me a second. I'm doing a whole.
The most silence we've ever had on this program in our 18-year history is lovely. It's like
from me, especially from me. Basquiat.
Oh.
Jean-Michel Basquiat. Obviously not the answer from your response, David.
Could be.
Well, she gave an answer.
But I didn't give her a chance to do final answer.
You get on with it here.
Oh, do I get to go back on that one?
Look at Bob. Bob's that one. I need an answer for you, Les. She's right.
American, 2018.
But she gave an answer.
Wait a minute. Clay's Oldenburg.
Claes Oldenburg. Wow, you pulled that one incorrectly, but you did pull that, Leslie. So, and now David Sheward gets to potentially steal
Right.
2018 Chop Suey.
Uh-huh.
But, well,
Now, what comes to my first instinct is Norman Rockwell, because you said Two on the Aisle, and that I have an image of a Norman Rockwell painting of two cleaning ladies in a theater looking at in an empty theater, looking at the theater program after the theater's all empty. And I don't know Chop Suey, Norman Rockwell, but it's possible. So it was the other paintings were Two on the Aisle and what?
An Automat.
I'm going to say Norman Rockwell.
David Sheward. No.
Oh.
No, everybody missed this one. I thought Automat
Wow.
would be kind of giving it away of the style of that kind of painting. It was Edward Hopper.
Oh.
American artist with the
I never would have thought that.
Oh,
from the
yeah,
title. I
okay.
never would have thought that.
Yeah, Automat, I can sort of visualize Automat.
Yeah, one of my favorites. But you know, when you said Norman Rockwell, I started to think, oh my God, what would Chop Suey have been? He was so politically incorrect. It would have been
Well,
horrible.
a bunch of people with, like this.
I don't even want to think about it.
Little hats like
I
this.
I know.
Jerry Lewis is a Japanese chef and hardly working. That's a
Yes,
we're
that's
talking
about where, that's
Mickey
where I was
Rooney.
like, oh, excellent. Well, I love Edward Hopper, but I don't know any. Well, I'm going to go get a copy of that too on the aisle now that you mention it.
So here's the deal. Here's the deal, folks. We actually have right now a tie game. It's tied between Leslie and David, each with 6 points. Bob has 2. And so, Bob, you had the last question. David does get the chance to get those 2 points now. So you can break the tie. This is our tiebreaker. All right. Are you ready, David?
Oh, me? Okay.
Yes. So much is riding on this.
All right.
1916 was the year.
Uh-huh.
At the age of 45, this short story writer H.H. Munro dies today in World War I. Known for his witty and satirical stories, Munro generally wrote under a pen name that he took from a character in the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. What was that name? I see Leslie nodding. I see David kind of nodding. So I think you guys absolutely know it already, but I want to give Bob a chance. Bob, just nod. Don't say it. Do you think you know it?
Oh,
Don't say it out loud. I know it's your question, but I kind of want to. I get the feeling from David that you got it like halfway through the question. I'll read it again. 1916 was the year. At age 45, short story writer H.H. Munro died today in World War I. Known for his witty and satirical stories, Munro generally wrote under a pen name that he took from a character in the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. What was that name?
Can I give you my answer?
Yes, you can win the game by giving us a correct answer.
Okay. The name is Saki, S-A-K-I.
And I am very happy to tell you that you got that right.
Hey.
David Sheward once again. But this was a squeaker. The final score is David with 8, Leslie with 6. Bob, you came up there with 2 good points. Well, Bob was just angering at me.
They weren't that
If you
good.
think about it, the writers who were lost, like Siegfried Sassoon and Saki and others who were lost in that war, it's terrible. Just
Oh, if you're going to talk about Saki, don't whine about it.
Oh.
I'm very, very sorry.
Now, does this mean that everybody else has to give a concession speech?
Oh, be graceful about it.
Yeah.
Or you guys can wait a couple of weeks and just see.
I'm
Okay,
not
here's
going to
my
leave.
concession
I'm not going to leave the Zoom.
David, here's my that's very funny, Bob.
Yeah.
Here's my concession speech. You missed a horror show on Wednesday, not joining us for Jeopardy. Do you ever want to be included again if we ever decide to do it again?
Oh, sure. If I'm available, it depends.
Okay, well, we didn't know whether you were or not, but I couldn't get into the site.
Oh.
So those guys were on and I wasn't. And I'm the leader of the group, so I'm the one who has to give the answers. So it was like,
How did Charlie manage to? I am curious about
Charlie
this.
did a very good job. Charlie
How did he
typed
do it? How did he suddenly have control?
We didn't know the answers. For example, David Sheward, did you know what the Hebrew word for turkey is?
Gobelowitz?
6-1. And we didn't get that.
Well, what was the
A little
answer?
bit racist. Yeah, okay.
They said it was the word Tukey, and we don't believe there is such a word. And Charlie, who speaks Hebrew, doesn't think there's such a word either.
Yeah, there were a couple of questions that were borderline sort of iffy or confusing.
Or
Like
you could-
the
you could
first
have-
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
What was it? All these questions about Thanksgiving that
Yeah.
were just.
David, the question was, when was the first Thanksgiving celebrated in America?
1621.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Son of a
Wow.
bitch, you got it right. See, we were thinking of when it was made into a holiday, because he said in America, because it wasn't America when in 1621.
Or was it?
Or,
It wasn't. It wasn't declared
Well,
the United States of
it
America.
is-
Oh.
In
Oh.
fact, Columbus incorrectly thought it was America. It really was sort of America at that point. But do you know how long they celebrate, what was it, Thanksgiving in Korea or some shit?
No, Columbus thought it was the Indies, David.
Yeah.
Dave Lefkowitz.
Oh, yeah.
Columbus thought it was
Yeah.
the Indies, not America.
Oh, that's right. He called it, he thought it was going to India, but how did
Yes,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So it was
Oh.
never America in 1621. The question was badly worded.
True.
But
But it
you
was
got
still,
it right according to their
Yeah.
line of.
and did you know
reasoning.
that Thanksgiving in Korea, they celebrate for a week?
No, 3 days.
Yeah, no, it's
Oh, no,
3
it's 3
days.
days. I'm sorry, it was 3 days.
3 days. Did you know that they celebrated Thanksgiving in Korea? Period.
No, I don't, anyway, that's what you
Well,
missed.
David, what's the part of Australia where they do Thanksgiving?
Oh yeah, and I'm asking this of David. Bob, you can chime in too, but David is more of the like knows a whole lot about
Well,
everything in the world. So, in what part of Australia do they celebrate Thanksgiving?
I don't know. Tasmania.
Yeah, that's me. I thought.
That's a devilish answer, but no, that is not correct. What was it? Was it like some weird Cook Island something?
Yeah, something like that. Whatever you just said. Yeah, something with the word island in it.
Hebrides Island something.
No, I
They were
think you were
tough.
right. The person. It was obviously a themed question evening, as you can tell.
Yeah.
And
Well, I am thankful, I have to say, for all of these wonderful guests that we've had in the Daverhood today on Dave's Gone By. First of all, thank you so much to the lovely Leslie Hoban Blake. You want to see her on Critics Circle, which she does with our friend Charlie Gross. And so do you talk about theater or the Zoom shows? You said, what do you actually do on that podcast?
what we're doing is, I think it's actually, I think we're filling a void. At least that's what I'm hoping we're doing. Or either that or we're creating a
That's
new
what I do in
one
the
or the
bedroom.
other.
Yeah.
And the idea is, don't go there.
Yeah.
The idea is that with Broadway is a monolith. So when Broadway theater closes, it can't open individually because there's no such thing. It's the League of Broadway Producers, and they all have to sit down and figure out monetarily, blah, blah, blah. But all of the small theaters are doing their own thing because there is no that kind of monolithic group there. And so what we're doing is one at a time talking to artistic directors or people who are putting on benefits for the Actors Fund and Equity Fights AIDS. Our last guest was a friend of mine who was in the third touring company of Cats. And they reconnected after 35 years to do a benefit. It's the most wonderful Zoom. You can find it, I
right?
think.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Right, the acting
Cat.
company theater, yeah.
No,
No.
it wasn't that at all. It
Oh, no,
was,
it
it
wasn't.
was,
Could I
it was
ask the
the
group?
third national tour,
Yeah.
and they called themselves Tour 3 is what they were called. And they when Michael Bennett died, they raised money together around the country as they were traveling. They raised almost $100,000 back in the day,
Right.
back in 85. And now they got back together for this
1885.
wonderful
Michael Bennett was choreographing Dreamgirls a long
1985.
Now hold on,
Smiley.
Les, let me stop you there for a moment because Bob had a question there.
No, I just wanted to ask all three of you, or maybe Leslie in particular. I mean, I'm kind of away from the theater world.
We
I mean,
all
don't
are.
know much about it. But like in New York City, Leslie, I mean, are there any theaters that are open? Is anybody putting on plays in any
This is
way?
this is what the program is about. Everybody has a different idea of how to attack this. Mostly it's got to do with Zoom. Some are exhuming, no pun intended, David, are exhuming their own stock of filmed plays that they've done and showing those. Others are actually staging new plays or radio plays or readings, and the idea is how people are pivoting.
But
The
there's
answer is
also,
people are
Leslie,
busy.
No,
I've read
but
about things in storefronts and the occasional like distance thing or a special thing where it's in a building on a couple of floors. David,
But we're
have you
talking
heard
about
that?
the specific theater companies
Yeah.
and what they're
Uh,
doing.
but I don't know
I
of any-
can't answer that. David might know.
I
What did
don't-
they do?
I've only heard about like one or two distancing. I forget what it was, but one company did something where you went from place to place, and it was very distant, and it only had a few performances. So nobody's really doing any live things in New York that I know of.
But everybody's approaching the whole concept in a different way, and I just find it really interesting. And people have pivoted the way that restaurateurs have had to pivot. You know, everybody has to find another way to make a living, basically. And it's funny because Bob, you mentioned the Berkshires before. The Berkshire Theater Festival is charging $55 a ticket for anything they put on because they have a subscriber base that's willing to support them. And people are doing things. The Irish Rep is charging $25 a ticket and asking for donations. And they just put on something new that they hadn't done before, but they did it as a Zoom. And I just find it fascinating. And this is what because I didn't just want to do a show about reviewing. And then, by the way, we reviewed the Constitution as a film as well. And we reviewed Boys in the Band as a film.
Well, Leslie's mentioned What the Constitution Means to Me, which was a Broadway play. So, yeah. So
Somehow that one I heard of.
And that was on Amazon.
It still is. It's
yeah, you
on
can tune in
Amazon.
and watch
You
it.
can watch it.
I think if you have Disney, you can still watch Hamilton. Nobody's talking about it, but I
Yes.
assume it's still big.
Yes.
Physically.
And Boys in the Band is still on Netflix.
Right.
So
Which is the musical Diana. They filmed inside an empty theater, and they're going to be showing that next year on Netflix.
oh,
Well,
okay.
also coming and The Prom is coming to Netflix too. They made a movie.
As,
Yes,
as the
yes.
movie. As a
So,
movie.
long story
One
short,
of the original cast members lives in my building. And who's the dark-haired woman?
B.B.
Beth,
Neward?
Beth Level. Beth Level lives
Beth
in my
Level,
building. But here's an interesting and sad thing that happened 2 days ago. For one of these shoots that they're putting together, a stagehand fell from the thing and killed it and got killed.
Yes.
He was hanging lights or curtains or something and he got killed.
Winter Garden.
and scene. You know,
Actually, what he was doing, they were unloading the show that's in there, and they were putting
Beetlejuice.
in Music Man,
right.
which is so stupid because Music Man isn't going to be until June of next year, if it is at all.
No, not June. You're right. They'll load in June. They start in November. Yeah.
You know,
Well,
so loading it in
2021.
now, unloading and loading it in now is just probably without any safety precautions in place because it's not, you know,
And the irony is
so bad
that
for that.
the real irony, Leslie, is that Beetlejuice was kind of a surprise hit, whereas the stagehand had a surprise flop.
Oh,
dear.
oh.
Too soon.
Oh, no, he
Too
didn't.
soon.
No, he didn't.
I did. Yes, I did. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dave's Gone By. You've been watching Leslie Hoban Blake, David Sheward, who is, theaterlife.com, thedaviddesk.com for his blog, and there's one of the cultural something. Oh, you're mute. Hello?
Has he gone?
Oh, can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
Very slightly, so shout.
Okay, Cultural Weekly.
Culturalweekly.com. What is the difference between Cultural Weekly and Theater Life?
They're two different websites.
Or what you do for the different ones? What do you?
Actually, it's the same thing, and I have an agreement between them where I print the same reviews on both places, and they sort of cross-reference each other.
Oh, very nice. Very cool.
Are they both
Like,
with what's his name, our photographer?
What's his
Theater
name?
Life is
I
with
don't
Barry,
know.
right?
Yes, yeah. Barry is just Theater Life.
Very
The
good. Oh, yeah.
Cultural
And
Weekly
is
something-
Cultural Life also the same people?
No, the Cultural Weekly is a separate, different website.
Gotcha. Now I understand. It's like the old days when you syndicate. Okay.
Yes, I'm sort of a mini syndicate of two.
You see, you pivoted. You reinvented syndication.
Yes.
We all pivot in this world, and we're pivoting over to Bob Cudmore. Bob Cudmore, remember, you don't have to remember, people have to remember to go to bobcudmore.com to hear the many, many podcasts that you've done of the historians. What's the one that's coming up next? What's the most recent?
Well, let me see here. I'll take a look. This week we're running one about a sculptor who came from Utica, New York, kind of our again, upstate focus. But, one guy that I've had join me several times is an attorney from Manhattan named Jim Kaplan. He's the head of the Lower Manhattan Historical Association. So he's sort of like a regular guest. So I've got him on, not to talk about Lower Manhattan or New Rochelle, where he lives, but about the achievements of the first woman member of a presidential cabinet. Could be another question for your trivia.
Rankin, wasn't that Rankin?
No, it was Frances Perkins.
Frances Perkins, of course.
FDR's Secretary of Labor, who designed Social Security.
Yes, okay. By the way, I am the historian of the drama desk for whatever it's worth. It's a post that they created so I could stay on the board. It was interesting.
Well, at least this year was real easy for you, Leslie. It's like 2000 nothing. Anyway, guys, it's been absolutely a delight. It's been great. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, David, for playing the game, for being on the show. Stay healthy, and we'll see you all soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye now.
See you next week.
Elephant 9.
We'll be back next week.
Yes, back next week. I'll give you the details, but probably same time, same station.
I'll tell my husband not to fiddle around with the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have Wi-Fi by then. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Lindsay. Bye-bye. Yes! And there's one man left standing in its stage. Wasn't that fun? Wasn't that just a marvelous...
I'll tell you something. Bob Cudmore was the only guest that's non-trivia regular who actually scored.
Yeah, because we had...
I think the first two guests, we had the band leader.
Vince Giordano. I didn't do all that well.
I ate these.
Yeah, fine.
I called myself. And then the other one was the guy who spoke Yiddish.
He didn't get any?
No.
They both goose egg? Yeah, that's right. The Yiddish, Henry Saposnik did get a goose egg on. Not that we're calling him out. Not that we're making fun. We're just saying...
Let me tell you something. The group is so hard to compete with. They're tough.
They're tough. And its questions aren't always easy. The questions, they range from like, oh, can't believe you're asking that, to I can't believe you're asking that.
And
so
then sometimes the theater person gets a history question. The history question goes to a, like Bob could have got the history one. Like everybody, you don't get a question in your category. You get whatever you get.
Well, that's why we rolled the dice to see who goes first, because otherwise, it's it could be rigged in that way, but it isn't. So that's pretty neat. It is just about noon Eastern time here in the Daverhood on Dave's Gone By.
And nobody melted down. That was a good quiz.
That was good. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. My wonderful wife Joyce is with me. You're all with me here.
Good shots, I think, Dave.
Oh my God! Can you hand me the list? I've got to go through all those people. Just to say hi to all the folks who are tuning in.
There's a lot of people named Mark and David. I tried to give different initials, but there's like 50 Marks and Davids.
Well, we get high marks for this program. So we'll read them all from the beginning. Joyce and Charles and Roy.
It's not me.
No, different Joyce. And David, Warhol, Lori, Alan, Donna, Nancy, Ice. I keep saying it looks like Isis. It's Iris. Bobby, Ken, Alan, Michael, Nancy.
Just tilt the camera a little bit this way. You're losing your picture.
So I need to put, let me get that there. A little better?
I can't see, I'm delayed, remember.
Oh, well, we spun it around a little bit. That's better, I think. Alan, Michael, Nancy, Mark, Robin, Ray, Peter, Michael, Thomas. So good they had to name him twice. Frazier
you should shout
or
out to
Trevor.
Dr. Sue, who wrote in and said she has the teddy bear puppet. She wanted to play the quiz, but then she didn't, so I think she got intimidated.
Well, she'll be able to play the quiz in a week or two because she will be on this program. Sandy, David, Michael, Mark, Toby, Marjorie, Joey, Rodney, Alan, Sandy, Peter, Michael S., Rick, Lily, I think, Michael, different Michael, Stephen, Richie, Glenn, Freddie, Maria, Glenn, Jim, Christopher, Dean, Richard, Tom, Scott, Bill, Marek, I think, or no, this is a different Mark. It's a Mark with a K. Rodney, William, another Michael, and Paul W. Oh my goodness. Such a great, wonderful bunch of people watching Dave's Gone By live on this Saturday, November 12th, November 14th. You want to show that? Okay. My wife opened the closet, or a little more, and look what she did. Scraped herself on coat hanger. And it was one of those felt soft ones. I don't know how that happened. But so we put in Calmaceptin, and it didn't look like Calmaceptin, it was white. What, toothpaste? Or,
yes, I put toothpaste.
but it's healing. It's healing from my love, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, that was Joyce's arm here on Dave's Gone By, our 700.
Bob Dylan, when Bob Dylan wore that paint on his face in the show.
Exactly. That's exactly what it looks like. 772nd episode of the show on this November 14th, 2020. We're calling it Cudcession Speech, thanks to our great guest, Bob Cudmore.
He was very gracious, and he wasn't, the biggest achievement, I think, of his life is that he was not rattled by the quiz contestants. He did not, he was like smooth. He did not get flustered. They brought in stuffed animals. He went and got a stuffed animal. He was the least flustered by the quiz.
Yeah, because the man has been, for 20-something years, 30-something years, radio. Everything gets thrown at you at one time or another.
Very calm amongst, calm in the storm.
He's terrific. And go to bobcudmore.com for his podcast.
Watch party
yeah, just put the link up in the watch party. By the way, speaking of watching the show, please remember that we keep the archives of Dave's Gone By forever. So you can go to davesgoneby.com and watch last week's show, or the show from a month ago, or 18 months ago, or 58 months ago.
I forgot to put Bo.
On Bo, of course, Bo. And Donna. Bo and Donna. And even our very first episode, or our first batch of episodes 18 years ago, they are all there for free, davesgoneby.com. They're both, you can stream them or even just download them as MP3s if you want to take them with you. davesgoneby.com. Plus, we even have a separate archive there of all the wonderful interviews that we've done over the years. You can find our archives at archive.org, also archive.org. So that is where it's a nonprofit site that I really appreciate for what they do. So we put our shows up there. Same stuff that you'll find at davesgoneby.com, but if you want to support archive.org, just look for Dave's Gone By there. If you want just the audio of the show and you're a podcasty kind of person, so you can also find just the audio at castbox.fm. Castbox.fm. So that's an easy way that you can just listen on the go to Dave's Gone By, both our earliest episodes and most recent. Yeah.
On Saturday the 14th, Bob talked about vaudeville.
Oh, really? Oh, we should have mentioned that.
The Lyceum Theater, all about, the Rialto Theater.
Oh my gosh, why didn't you mention that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, anyway, that's so cool. And that's on there right now.
Yeah.
And by the way, all his podcasts are on there. You can go back and listen, just like you can to my shows. If you go to bobcudmore.com, you can listen to all his shows there too. Fantastic. And I want to let you know that we put all our stuff on YouTube as well, although there was a period in our show's history when you won't get the whole show because they blip out the music. There was all sorts of rights problems. So probably not the best place, even though it's the most front-facing place for Dave's Gone By. We'll find us on YouTube as well. But the first place to start is davesgoneby.com. And of course, for the past couple of years, all our shows are archived right here on this Facebook page. So you're going to want to tell your friends, your family, everyone to tune in, to discover this show, to share this show with other people. And by the way, the groundswell of support right here on, I sound like Ed Sullivan, right here on the South Shore of Long Island. If you have Cablevision and you are a serious night owl, at 1 o'clock in the morning on Mondays and at 4 o'clock in the morning on Tuesdays, if you put on your local Channel 20, the public access station, we've been chopping and slicing and dicing these shows, and you can see an hour's worth of just random Dave's Gone By on those 2 nights. So it's or early mornings, I should say, because who isn't up, just before going to work on Monday morning? Monday morning, 1 a.m. on Channel 20, or whatever your public access channel is where you are, if you have Altice and Cablevision, or Tuesdays at 4 a.m., you'll see this. You'll see exactly this for about an hour. Anyway, so go look for that. It's called the Daverhood. All right, well, we have a bit more to do in the Daverhood today. We've got our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. We have our My Sick Mind segment and Friends of the Daverhood to mention. But before we get to that, earlier in the show, my wonderful wife, Joyce, she does so much work for the show. She's inviting people. She's dealing with a watch party. She's posting stories about the show. But one of the big things that she did today was she went into this book, the Webster's New World Dictionary of the American Language, supposed to be the English language. It is different, I suppose. And she put her finger down at random on a page. And the page that she chose, the note, the definition that she found was for the word equity. Equity, which means fairness, impartiality, justice, or anything that is fair or equitable. The value of property beyond the total amount owed on it, or a system of rules or doctrines, as in the US, supplementing common and statute law and superseding such law when it proves inadequate or just settlement. Anywho, I won't go with that definition necessarily, but I do have to talk for a little bit about something involving the word equity on the segment that we like to call Dave's Big Dick Dictionary. Extra, tell all about it. It's Dave's Big Dictionary. So what is there to talk about? I mean, I've always been very much about fairness above all things, almost. I'm not a great big humanitarian. In fact, I'm something of a misanthrope, have been since, my preteens. And I'm not, I'm an ego, and I have certain levels of greed and need and desire. But if I'm in a social situation, I'm very much about, is everybody being treated fairly? Is everybody getting the absolute fair shake? If there's pizza being distributed, I'll take the small slice, and I want to make sure that everybody gets, their share of what's right and what is equitable. So that is important to me, and I guess that is one of the keys to my personality as a person. So there's that about equity. It's something that I really, truly believe in, and something I wish more people would take into account, I guess. But what else? Equity also being actors. Well, yeah, let me talk about that. Also comes up because equity with a capital E is the actors' union, Actors Equity, and they're, kind of wish I was in it. I never made that move towards being a Broadway performer, alas. Maybe I will one day. But I'm a union guy. I believe in unions. I sat through a union meeting for work this week. It was just like, oh my God. I'm not into meetings. Meetings is not my thing. But I'm thrilled that unions are there. Our working lives would be absolutely horrible if it weren't for unions 80 and 50 years ago. And Actors Equity looks out for actors who, even in the best of times, are out of work, unless you're part of the lucky few, 90% unemployment at any given time. So Equity is going to fight for the actors to be paid well when they're acting, right? It's not as if, oh my God, they're making X $1,000 a week. Well, they're not making that 52 weeks a year unless they're really, really lucky. Equity has to look out for them. Equity has to make sure that some of that money is being put aside for their retirement and for health benefits and things like that. At the same time, Equity is having to sort of double back now that there's no theater and nothing being done, of trying to figure out how actors can still make a living and how there can be some virtual stuff and how they can take thousands and thousands of hours of footage that has been recorded of the American theater and of Broadway especially over many, many years and still figure out, let people see it, right? Because there's always about equity rules. If a show is closing on Broadway and there's no chance that anybody can ever see it again, in the same kind, if it's revived, you can see that play, but it won't be the same actors, won't be the same set, won't be the same feeling, right? It's going away, it's gone. Tape it and let anybody come see it. Why not? Well, who are you hurting? You're not hurting the chances of the show. You're not stopping people from coming to see it anymore, right? And we learned from hit movie musicals like Chicago and Dreamgirls, Dreamgirls not so much, but that it won't close the show just because you have people coming to see it on TV or in the movies. If Hamilton was still running on Broadway right now, showing Hamilton would just have tourists, oh, we saw this on TV, now we want to see it live. If anything, it's like a 2.5-hour commercial for the show that'll bring even more people rather than keep them away, in some cases, right? If they don't like the show when they see it on TV, they're not suddenly going to take a risk and come see it again live and pay $150 for it. But this idea of equity not being able to work out with the other unions of the only way that you can see hundreds of Broadway and off-Broadway shows is you have to come to New York, right? You have to go to the, I guess it's Lincoln Center Library or up on 65th Street. I mean, not that it's a chore to come to Lincoln Center. It's, for me, the most beautiful place in Manhattan. But you have to go, you have to request, you get a time slot, you gotta do this and this and this. And then if they accept, if they say yes, then you can go in, put in like a video cassette or something. Right now, I'm sure they've modernized it. And you can watch some Broadway performance from 20 years ago. So it's open to students and scholars, for people who have appointment TV. And I'm just wondering, so equity let that slide. That's what I'm saying. They're saying, yeah, we know we have actors, equity actors in there, and people are in the union, but it's a one-person, one-shot thing. They're coming there. It's a scholarly endeavor. You can watch the show, but don't enjoy it. It's not going to be great 18 cameras, perfect things. It's usually like 1 or 2 cameras popped in front of the stage, just so there's a living record, just so that future costume designers and playwrights and set designers can see how it was done way back when. And it's just, it would be nice if they could figure out, and all the unions could figure out more ways to allow everybody to see stuff, right? And have the actors get paid a little bit more, work that out. And don't make it so exorbitant that the producers can't afford it and the networks can't do this and the distributors can't do that. Work it out. We're in a situation where actors are desperate and they're leaving the profession in droves. They're driving back home. They're going out of New York to other states, maybe permanently, maybe they'll come back in a year. Give them, work something out so that there's something for them to do and they're paid equitably, but don't equitably, with equity, by actors' equity, controlling things, but don't make it so onerous for producers to do what they have to do. Don't look out for actors to the point where they can't get jobs because people aren't going to produce anything. I'm still wondering about the fallout in California for what they did to the 99-seat theaters a couple of years back. Of just, because everybody's got to get paid this much, right? Great, look out for the actors. They're working so hard. It's not even remotely a living wage. They should get something. But unfortunately, you got producers who want to do things on a shoestring. That's all they have. They're not going to be making millions of dollars on this. They just want to put on a show. So if they can pay actors nothing or cab fare or serve them pizza once a month or every other day in rehearsals and spring for that, and that's what they can afford, they want to produce. And this kind of takes away their ability to do that, or for young actors who will gladly, they're paying to take acting lessons. They'll pay even to be in a show. They shouldn't have to. And now you're saying they can't even be in a free show because you won't let the producer do a free show. Actors, it's time for the union to slide a little on certain things and to stay firm on some others. That's just my thought. I just wish after all these years that they could work stuff like that out a lot better and not be everything so contentious and not, I think you know where I'm going with that. But what else can I say about the word equity? Equity. No. Now I start thinking about life insurance and that just bores the hell out of me. I think I've done it. I think that will serve for Dave's big dictionary for this Saturday, November 14th, 2020, the 772nd episode of, episode of Dave's Gone By. Well, we're not done with the episode, by the way. We still have a bit more to do. We've got our Colorado Limerick of the Damned coming up, and we're also going to talk about a little of the friends of the Daverhood. These are people who have been on this program. But before then, I spent some time apologizing early in the show about this. I will apologize again. Being a man with an eccentric and humorous mind, you can't stop the mind from churning. You can't just sort of turn things off. Either your brain works in a certain way or it doesn't. And for most of us, you can have it work in that way without saying it, without sharing it. You think of a sick joke, you think of something in really bad taste, you think of something hurtful and nasty, and most people can kind of go, you know, even some folks whose brain is flying with the worst imaginable things you could imagine can still sort of keep it here, smirk, and go, but when you have an outlet like I do, or you get up on stage like comedians do, or in front of microphones, it's harder for us. The joke is there. It's in the brain. It has to come out. Otherwise, it dies here, and a piece of the comedian dies with it. So whether it hurts somebody or whether it's totally inappropriate or too soon, sometimes you gotta just be like, wah, and devil take the hindermost. And sometimes you take your lumps, and sometimes, you know, you do something wonderful and it changes the world. I don't think either will happen right now, but we do have on this episode of Dave's Gone By a My Sick Mind segment, because it's coming from sick mind. And within minutes after Alex Trebek died about a week ago, this old brain started thinking, whoa, so sad. Love Jeopardy. He was really good. Let's make some jokes. Let's make some fun. So I apologize to anybody who personally knew Alex Trebek, or any relatives watching, or anybody who loves Jeopardy so much that it's just terrible to say anything about this. Sorry, but that's the way it goes when you deal with my sick mind.
My sick, my sick, my sick, my sick, my sick mind. Well, talk about bad taste. My sick, my sick, my sick, my sick, my sick mind. You sick little monkey.
And I will need some sound effects to get me through this. So ladies and gentlemen, for this November 14th, this is how we in the Daverhood bid farewell to Alex Trebek with some jokes on my sick mind. What did Alex Trebek's doctor tell him 2 years ago? You're in jeopardy. Yeah, I told you. What are they using to get the stink off Alex Trebek's body? Potpourri. What kind of drinks are they serving at Alex Trebek's wake? Potent potables. Joyce is not even cracking even at the smallest smile here. What did the doctors call it when Alex Trebek took 2 doses of chemo in 24 hours? The Daily Double. What's worse than 3rd stage pancreatic cancer? 4th stage pancreatic cancer. What's worse than 4th stage pancreatic cancer? Death. What's worse than death? New York Jets. Thank you very much. Hey, did you hear? Alex Trebek's pancreas went on another game show. The Weakest Link. And finally, and not a moment too soon, if I dare say, why is Alex Trebek curled up in his coffin? Well, he's in the form of a question. Ladies and gentlemen, that Wasn't that worth it? Was my sick mind. Oh, my friends, it is about 20 after 12 Eastern time in the Daverhood. We're coming around the final stretch of this 772nd edition of Dave's Gone By. I want to remind you that the fine folks at Hewlett Minuteman Press have been sponsors of ours since our very first episode back in 2002. They do fine quality printing work, from regular Xerox black and white copies, color copies, to real actual printing and silk screening. They can do business cards for you or special letterhead. They're also known for wedding invitations and holiday cards, and they can basically get word out about your business. Work with them. You know, if you need your logo on uniforms, they can do that. They can make banners and flyers and balloons. They can put your image, your logo on a calendar or on a piece of clothing or pens and pencils. So Hewlett Minuteman Press does all of that. And if you tell them Dave sent you, you get 10% off any job, big or small. So give them a call, 516-569-5577. Area code 516-569-5577. Hewlett Minuteman Press. They are the copy kings. Well, I feel like a king when I do this program, and I talk to wonderful guests like Bob Cudmore. What a fine fella. And his podcast is at bobcudmore.com. I hope he made the Kirk Douglas thing one of his podcasts that you can listen to. But check them all out. They really sound interesting. bobcudmore.com. And that's Cudmore, C-U-D-M-O-R-E. So we don't cud less, we cud more. So he is now a friend of the Daverhood, has been for many, many years. We also thank our friends of the Daverhood, Leslie Hoban Blake and David Sheward. They are longtime friends of the Daverhood. But we've also had hundreds, literally hundreds of other guests on this show. And we like to take a moment and say what they're up to, what's been happening with their lives and careers since they were on this program. We call them the Friends of the Daverhood. I want to let you know that our very talented musical friend of the Daverhood, Jane Siberry, she's keeping real busy during the pandemic. She has a new single out called Some Days Even Lipstick Is a Lie. Plus, on Saturday, today at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, you can go to her Facebook page, and she'll be hosting a meeting about stressing positivity, where people share stories of positive things during the pandemic. It's Jane Siberry, Siberry. You might know her most of all, really. She's the woman who sang and wrote Calling All Angels way back when. But she's still doing music, and she's got that new single out, Some Days Even Lipstick Is a Lie. I want to let you know that Steve Kaplan is teaching a 4-class course in developing the comedy idea, and it starts today, November 14th. So sign up right now. And even if you missed the live thing today, they're recorded, so if you pay, you can watch them. So he will tell you how to do your screenplay, a comedy screenplay or play. Steve Kaplan, who was, by the way, the co-founder of Manhattan Punchline off-Broadway back in the 70s. I want to let you know that Robert Cuccioli, he is in the Shaw play Man and Superman. They're going to be doing that as part of Seth Rudetsky's Stars in the House, which is basically one of the things that's been keeping Broadway going for the past half a year. That is happening tomorrow, Monday. Seth Rudetsky, friend of the Daverhood. So is Robert Cuccioli. So is Tony winner Andre DeShields, who on Tuesday is taking part in a benefit for BIPOC, like I assume they pronounce it, BIPOC performers rising in the industry. Go to BroadwayVS.com, BroadwayVS.com to donate and to watch the show Tuesday night. Now on Thursday night, there will be an encore showing of the cabaret evening with Uta Lemper at Club Cumming. That's Alan Cumming at a nightclub in New York, has a party place, a nightclub. Ula Lemper did a show there, and they're showing it, and there's an encore showing on Thursday for Ula Lemper. Barbara Fasano and Eric Comstock are two friends of the Daverhood. They sing songs of the golden era of American music. You can hear them at their YouTube page. They post a couple a week. Barbara Fasano and Eric Comstock. I want to remind you that Evan Seplow is the founder and editor of StageBuddy.com. Dr. Demento, he has all his old Demento shows at drdemento.com, and he still does new ones every week, internet only. And they cost a small fee. They're like $2, or if you want really good sound quality, $4. Check in with Dr. Demento at drdemento.com. Stuart Brown, he has a 24-hour website of Broadway music called soundsofbroadway.com. And let's see, what else do I want to tell you? I mentioned before totaltheater.com, a free website of theater reviews. Well, still posting reviews of shows that are done virtually are our friends, Mary Shen Barnage, Ann Siegel, and Will Manis. They've all been on the show. They're all very, very good theater critics, and you can read their work at totaltheater.com. And those, my friends, are the friends of the Daverhood. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming up almost at 12:30 in the afternoon. Well, what's so funny?
Never gonna hit the show.
Oh, God, we're only a half-hour overtime. That's pretty good for us. Remember when the show used to stretch like 5 or 6 hours? Yeah. And we are actually almost done, but we do have one more item to take care of on this 772nd episode of the program. I apologized before for My Sick Mind, for the Alex Trebek jokes. Now I apologize beforehand for our Colorado Limerick of the damned, because Joyce and I lived in Colorado for a bunch of years, and towards the end of my stay there, for no particular reason, I started coming up with these little poems, these 5-line limericks, where they would take the name of a town or a big city or just a little municipality and throw that into the limerick. And because it's a limerick, of course, they're supposed to be mildly amusing and risque, or in my case, downright horrible and disgusting. We call those the Colorado Limerick of the damned.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 will end with words that rhyme. And likewise, verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick. Rocky Mountain,
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are Rocky Mountain High with our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, where we go to a place I never heard of until I started scoping places to write poems about. This one is for Rangeley, Colorado. Range, like Homanda, Rangeley, Colorado. It's a small town in Rio Blanco County. Isn't that lovely? Rio Blanco County in far northwest Colorado. It has had a post office since 1884, was named, one of the settlers, his name was not Rangeley, but he came from a town in Maine called Rangeley. So I love when states do this. He said, I came from Rangeley, let's name this new place Rangeley. And it'll make me feel better on days when I'm homesick. So that's how the name came about. It's about 4 square miles of mostly mountain desert terrain, but there are dunes and canyons and remains of Indian civilizations of the Ute and Fremont tribes. And it's known, or also was known, for both fossils and plentiful fossil fuel. So a lot of reasons to go digging around Rangeley, Colorado. Not only does the town have a community college, but it has the tank. That is an empty water tank with such great acoustics, it's been used for concerts and recordings. Who knew, right? All of this going on in Rangeley, Colorado. And for that reason, this week, in our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, we target Rangeley, Colorado. I'm dating a woman from Rangeley, who's constantly trying to change me. Last night in her sleep, I plowed her real deep, and now she's been eyeing me strangely. Blew that last line. I'm very, very sorry. But there you go. Send your comments and complaints. I'll read that again. I'm dating a woman from Rangeley who's constantly trying to change me. Last night in her sleep, I plowed her. Ah, damn it. I plowed her real deep. And now she's been eyeing me strangely. Send your letters to davesgoneby@aol.com. davesgoneby@aol.com. That is, I'll get everything that comes to me there. I will also look and see if you posted stuff right here on this Facebook page. You can message me directly if we're Facebook friends, or feel free to post on the page if you can. Love to hear from you. Love to hear your thoughts on the show, your suggestions, your shout outs, ideas for people who should be on the program or different segments, or any real suggestions that you have. You can email them davesgoneby@aol.com or pop them right on this Facebook page. You can also follow me on Facebook. It's Radio Dave 2, Radio Dave, the number 2. And let's see, what else? No, I think that's about all you need to know. I'll remind you one more time that we put our archives at archive.org, and also the audio archives at castbox.fm, and all the archives on YouTube too. But remember that the best place to find everything is davesgoneby.com. So do check that out. Check out Bob Cudmore's podcast place. It's bobcudmore.com. Go listen to Theater Circle and Cultural Weekly something for David Sheward. Oh, damn. You never remember that. Well, Theater Life and the David Desk and the cultural one that he does. And then Leslie Hoban Blake, listen to her with our other friend, Charlie Gross, for their podcast, Critics Circle. Well, we're planning out what we're going to be doing on our shows in the weeks ahead. We do have a guest that is being set. Her name was Horowitz. What was it? It was Dr. Sue.
Tedley, the teddy bear, Mr. Tedley.
Yes,
Tedley,
Dr. Sue.
Teddy bear.
She is something of a video podcaster as well, a songwriter, and has even written a couple of musicals. I haven't made it to New York yet, but who knows? So Dr. Sue Horowitz will be with us, if not in an upcoming week. And we're also trying to get a veteran, sort of a legendary comedian's comedian. We're working out to get him on the show as well, and we're very excited about that. As well as, and fingers crossed, this has actually worked out. It may, in fact, happen. It's, now, hon, you must know this song. Let's see if I can play it on here.
Farmer in the Dell.
Yeah, it's so hard to do that, where you play not the notes, but just the cadence of the song. But from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, what's the theme song of that movie?
I Shot the Sheriff.
No. Good guess though. Raindrops keep falling on my head, but that doesn't mean that is that right? Everybody knows that song. It was a huge hit number. Well, and I believe it was written by Backrack David, but it was sung by a fellow named B.J. Thomas. B.J. Thomas is still alive, and he's had other hits, especially on the country charts. And now he's put out a line of scented candles.
What?
Go no. Whatever, but it looks like it's working out, and you can stone me to death if it tends not to work out, and I've announced it anyway. But coming up in a week or two, B.J. Thomas going to be our guest in the Daverhood on Dave's Gone By. So lots of reasons to check our homepage at davesgoneby.com to see what's coming up next, and of course to keep visiting us on Facebook all week long. Just remains for me to thank once again David Sheward and Bob Cudmore and Leslie Hoban Blake, to thank my wonderful, supportive, very helpful wife, Joyce.
Make sure that you're streaming.
She makes sure we're streaming. She gets all the people tuned in. She writes down their names. She puts up stories about the show during the week. She's really doing a whole lot for the show, even though she doesn't want to. Well, we saw her arm. This is more than we usually see. Okay. You want to show your sexy arm again? What do we do?
No.
Well, no, she doesn't want to do that. Joyce is an equity. I can't afford to give her an under 5.
That's right.
Yeah. And last time I touched an under 5, they got a restraining order, so better not do that. Ladies and gentlemen, that closes this 772nd episode of Dave's Gone By with me, Dave Lefkowitz. Yeah, that's about it. Enjoy. It's cold, but it's beautiful out, so do enjoy that. Not quite there at Thanksgiving yet. We may cross the finish line without getting coronavirus and dying before the holiday. Fingers crossed. You know, can't do anything after 10 o'clock at night now, so just roll up an old episode of Dave's Gone By at davesgoneby.com, and I hope you'll enjoy. And I hope you will join us next Saturday, November 21st, for the 773rd episode of Dave's Gone By. Till then, as I said, stay well, enjoy the weather while it stays beautiful, and gone by.
Days gone by. Days gone by. Days gone by.
One more time. I'm dating a woman from Rangeley who's constantly trying to change me. Last night in her sleep, I plowed her real deep, and now she's been eyeing me strangely.